Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again, hey.
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, everybody. Pleasant good evening. Welcome, one and all, to the Do Dissidents podcast. My name is Keaton Weiss, here with Rachel Maddow's hot date from last night, Russell Dobular. How'd it go?
She told me usually she's goes for women, but after that intervention, we've got a little date.
Yeah, I didn't seem like you had too much performance anxiety. You know, you have to worry about that with famous people, but it seemed like you were pretty confident, seemed like you handled yourself pretty well. And I'm glad she had a great time. I'm glad you both had a great time. Maybe you guys will meet up. You'll do it again sometime, next time she's in town.
That's what you call PMC foreplay.
Exactly.
The lower orders wouldn't understand.
Yeah, right. Exactly right. That's exactly right. Folks, we got a great show for you tonight. Terrific crowd in here so far. 339 strong in the YouTube chat. 126 strong in the Rumble chat. Love to see all of that. We thank you guys all very much for being here. A very special show tonight. A very special show. We obviously made our first foray into real activism on the show. I shouldn't say the first foray because Russell's filmed events, but Russell, when you've gone to these rallies and stuff, you've been there more as a commentator than as an active participant. Not that you're not participating because you're there spreading the word, but you're there to observe and document this.
The cowbell people was the closest.
That's true.
Cowbell people.
That's true. But that just kind of happened incidentally because they reacted the way they did. Like,
exactly.
You were there to interview, and then it became a show because they kind of forced you into it.
Because of their reaction. Yeah, this is the first time I've done something like that. And we'll get into it when Jose's on. But
Jose is going to be joining us in about 20 minutes, folks.
Yeah, it was, it's nerve-wracking. But then, at least for me, I wasn't really that nervous. But it's just the only thing that was holding me back. And I talk about this a little on the video. You kind of feel bad for like the old lady that lets you get to your seat and what's about to happen to her. Right. Like security is about to like flying tackle you at her expense.
Yeah, right.
She's going to have to get up on that walker and get out of the way so they can get to you. It's like, oh man. And then I was about to go and Maddow started telling her coming out story. I'm like, well, can't do it right now.
Well, this is what they say about these old ladies, and you activists, you use these old ladies as human shields. I mean, it's really wrong. It's really a terrible thing.
Actually, Jose said in the video he likes to be next to the old ladies because they're so slow getting out.
It takes them a longer time to move out of the way when security comes and tries to get you out of there. But yeah, we have more to say about that, obviously, with the man himself, Jose Vega, who will be joining us in just a few moments. But we've already noticed you guys have been very generous with the Super Chat so far. That is super helpful. So thank you guys very much. We want to...
we should mention this because it's like the talk of the chat. Richard Medhurst got demonetized today.
Yep. That was, well, a couple days ago. Well, we'll get to all that. Trust me, I got some things to say about that stuff. But, yep, horrible.
I'm working on a project with Bull on the side of the wanted posters we talked about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's absolutely horrible what's going on. And yeah, we will have some stuff to say about that sort of in the intermission. I do want to take some super chats right off the bat because they were big ones, and so we want to get to them quickly. Daryl Deachman, thank you for the $70, $69.99. Can we get a couple of cowbells for Daryl because he gave us 2 of these? Congrats on your recent surge in subs. You deserve it. Keep on surging.
Sabby's suspended?
I don't know.
Sabby's suspended?
I haven't heard that.
Somebody in the chat says Sabby's suspended.
I haven't heard that, but it's getting terrible. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. Just a note to keep you humble. Israel isn't a lane. It's a position. Well, thank you for that. That's very generous.
Listen, brother. Do you know how much I'm resisting the urge to cover the South Park Panderverse event? Like, believe me, we're not trying to capitalize on it. It's, how do you cover anything else? There's a fucking genocide going on. Like, exactly. How do you cover anything else? What are we gonna fucking cover? A fucking, a fucking trans athlete who won a fucking sprint now?
Right.
I mean, that we're talking about this almost to exclusion of other topics because there's just no other topic that really matters nearly as much. It seems like almost any other topic would seem absurd to cover at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about that. Pat Donahue, thanks for the $10. You did us proud, Russell and Jose. Keep fighting the good fight against the MSM blood-sucking, warmongering dirtbags. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate that. Pete Sweet. I'm just reading the ones that came in before the show, since these came in early. Thanks, Pete Sweet. Russ and Jose, how dare you ruin the Wine Moms, Wine Moms Club comfortable buzz. Yeah, exactly. Disrupted the things a little bit there, but hey, as we will talk about when we do that segment, you guys were paying customers, and so I think that entitles you to give your feedback. Hey, the soup is cold.
Boom.
The soup is cold. Daryl Deachman, thanks for another 70. He said, here's another 70 for Russ and Jose. You know why. Keep making me proud, boys, and keep your head about you while doing it. Well, thank you.
I don't even know what that means.
I could have used a little more cowbell.
Want to kill that loop. Remember, kill that loop. Kill that loop. That's the name of the game there.
You got it?
Did I?
Oh, I'll do it.
I thought
you'd know if you did.
There you go.
No,
I did it. I got it. I took care of it. All right, folks. Well, we have Jose Vega who's going to be joining us in a few minutes. But right now, let's start the program. Obviously, we did our own protest today, but there have been several protests around the world. So here is a report, a little slideshow that Al Jazeera put together, mapping protests in solidarity with Palestine against Israel's assault. Tens of thousands of protesters in cities around the world have called for an end to Israel's assault on Gaza. And this is from Al Jazeera, a little map of all the significant protests around the world. This is from Dublin, Ireland. This is from Indonesia, right here. This is a huge one in Morocco. Beautiful sight. Here's one in Turkey. And here's one in London. In addition to that, I put together a little video compilation of the various protest activities from big cities all around the world. So we'll play this right now a little bit. This is from Madrid. This is Toronto. This is at an Israeli embassy or consulate. I forget which one, but that's at an Israeli building in Toronto. This is Washington, D.C. This was a spontaneous protest, so this wasn't planned in advance. This was the night of the hospital strike. Thousands of people showed up outside the White House. This was as Biden departed for Israel, obviously. Dallas, Texas. Not necessarily what we think of as a hotbed of left radicalism. It's great to see that there. Montreal. Glasgow, Scotland. Huge crowd. Look at that, as far as the eye can see. New York City. This is Washington Square Park. This is a candlelit vigil for the victims of the hospital strike. Notice a rabbi right in the front row. And this, of course, in Paris, France. Now, the thing about the Paris, France protest is that pro-Palestine protests have been banned in France. And that protest took place after this ban went into effect. So this is from CNN. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered in central Paris on Thursday. That looked more like thousands, not hundreds. But they always understate.
That was thousands.
They always
That was thousands.
underreport. That's anybody who's been to street protests, you know, if the media covers it at all, they always shortchange you. But that was definitely thousands. But anyway, thousands of demonstrators, we will fact check them there, gathered in central Paris on Thursday in defiance of a controversial new ban on pro-Palestinian rallies in the country. French police and members of the gendarmerie, did I say that? How's my accent there? Worked to disperse the crowds with tear gas and water cannons, visuals showed. The ban had been announced earlier in the day, according to a message sent by French Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin, I hope I said that right, to the country's police, citing concerns about public order. Pro-Palestinian demonstrations must be prohibited because they are likely to generate disturbances to the public order, said the minister. He added that any organization of such protests will lead to arrests. And so here is some more of this video that I just showed. This is also from Al Jazeera, documenting some clashes with law enforcement, not only in France, but in Germany as well.
I mean, not to get off topic, but didn't they warn us that if we didn't install these neoliberal centrists like Macron and Trudeau, we were going to get fascism?
They did, and in fact, I don't think that's off topic at all. I think that's very relevant to what we are about to see, because here we are about to see video from France and Germany, two of the guilty woke liberal states in the EU. Here they are cracking down on protests against the systematic genociding of the most vulnerable population, arguably, on the planet.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
Hello?
So I'm arrested because I said free Palestine.
If you have a problem with German law, yeah, then there's the way. Or take the nearest airport.
Wo wird sie hin?
There you have it. So yes, we were told that it was important to keep the fascists at bay. In fact, that was really the theme of the Rachel Maddow talk that you and Jose had a lovely time at last night.
Very ironically, that's what she chose to write a book about. And again, I don't want to step on the next segment, but the lack of self-awareness was just amazing. I mean, these people just live in a bubble, and that's why they love Maddow, because Maddow only tells them what they want to hear. Not an off note, not a challenging word, only what they want to hear. That is why the people who love her are so devoted to her. That's why they'll forgive her Russiagate and the Mueller report. It doesn't matter. She's a drug for them. She's a drug. She tells them that the world is this very black and white place, and they're the good guys. And that's all they want to hear from her, and that's all she does.
Yep. And, you know, the fact that the French people and the German people came out in defiance of these orders. As I understand, in Germany,
how are you going to ban protests in France?
Well, France, you can't. Yeah, it's not going to work. In Germany, as I understand, they did not formally issue a decree outlawing the protests, but the cops broke them up because of, quote unquote disorder, right? And so they just clashed with the cops there, and the cops made it pretty much impossible to hold a successful, peaceful protest. Whereas in France, they just said anybody who shows up protesting for this cause will be cuffed. And so it's great to see the people of France get out, the people of Germany get out, Jordan, Morocco, Turkey, Dallas, Texas. You're seeing just a real outpouring of humanity, which is the bright side of this, if there is a bright side of this, is you really are seeing people by the tens of thousands hitting the streets. And as we will demonstrate, Ryan Long put out a great little satirical piece that we'll show some brief portions of. A lot of activism now comes with a certain cynicism attached to people watching alongside, because they think, well, what are you really doing this for? What's your angle here? With a pro-Palestine protest, there's no angle. This can only hurt you. This can only cause reputational harm in professional circles, in academic circles, in political circles. This is something where there's really nothing in it for you except the ability to sleep at night. And it's a great thing to see this outpouring of people just hitting the streets. And it's important. It really is, because we have seen some chinks in the armor of the mainstream media. The propaganda is still so strong. It's still so insidious. The censorship is still so brutal, and I expect that will continue. But the only way to break through that is to show strength in numbers, to show that we will not be fooled by this and we will not be deterred by this. We are not going to sit quietly while 1 million children are wiped out just because we're supposed to keep our mouths shut. And that's what these protests really demonstrate. And it's a great thing to see in a very dark time.
You're right. And it, in many ways, redeems a lot of ideas that we on this show have been critical of, not so much the ideas, but in practice. We've been very critical of a lot of the critical race stuff, not on its premise. We've always been clear about that, but on its execution, because we've seen it as something that, I think I can speak for Keaton here, that was being manipulated by grifters and the establishment to deflect from discussion of class and economics and to keep people at each other's throats. But the core, and there's been a lot of talk of that from activists about how the professional managerial class stole the social justice movement. Right. And that's not what it was actually supposed to be. Now you're seeing this, and it actually kind of retroactively justifies a lot of what we've been complaining about, because you know what? Apparently millions of people actually heard the core message. Apparently millions of people, that seed really was planted of what it was actually supposed to mean.
Yes.
That you cannot treat people this way, that you cannot use your arrogant imperial power to shove people in a cage and indiscriminately murder them and treat them as second-class citizens. So not only do I see this as hopeful, I see it as a redemption of a lot of social movements that seemed like they had just gone completely off the rails, actually finding a purpose for their own existence and doing something more superficial than putting a flag on their profile. Right? That's the real shit. This is really meaningful. And I don't think we've seen a clash like this, a generational clash like this, which is largely what it is, since the Vietnam War. That's what this is reminding me of, because during the Vietnam War, until Cronkite said the war is lost, the news, the media very much controlled the flow of information and told it from the State Department point of view.
Absolutely.
In conflict with these protests. And it was largely generational as it is now. And this is just incredible, the way they've lost control of the narrative immediately. It didn't even take time, immediately.
Yeah, and I think I second that, it does redeem a lot of these social justice movements that, to our credit, have been co-opted and still are being steered cynically by capital. But apparently they have enough grassroots energy to the point where people come out to fight the real racism. This is real racism. You see, when you look at this, you see the power of real racism. You see the power that is attached to it, the hegemony of it. Real racism is this. Real racism is being told to sit down and take it and watch as a population of 2 million, half of which are children, are wiped out. That's real racism. Real racism is not, Matt Walsh crying about The Little Mermaid. Real racism is this. And it's a scary thing, and it's something that has to be resisted very, very forcefully, and it's a great thing to see when it happens.
It really is. And I hope from the bottom of my heart, I haven't covered, and I think anyone who's watched our show for a while knows I'm the driving force in most of the culture stories. I haven't covered those things because I just absolutely feel like, wow, I really want to cover another story about who should be swimming against who. It's because I saw it as a booby trap that we had to disarm to get to the real shit. I felt like it was something that we couldn't avoid. But you know what? When times get serious, that all takes care of itself. Like that shit falls by the wayside.
Exactly.
You see anybody talking about those things, and
right.
you won't.
Yeah.
You won't. World War III, nobody's going to be arguing about who should play a fucking mermaid. I promise you.
That's right. That's exactly right. All right, folks, we do have an addendum to this segment, but our guest of the hour is here, and if there's one thing we know, it's that you should never keep Jose waiting because he might jump in on your ass. So here he is, our great friend, and the subject of our upcoming dissident documentary, which is getting very, very close to completion. We must admit we were kind of holding back on it until this action because we knew this would get some eyeballs on him. So, we did sort of play the angles a little bit in that way, guilty as charged. But here he is, our good friend, Mr. Jose Vega. What's up, my friend?
You tell me. What's up? What'd I miss?
A free man. You're a free man. You and Russell are...
By the skin of our teeth.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. When's that documentary coming out? Because I leave for Germany for a month in November 15th. So
we'll have it out by then. Well, okay. I mean, I have to talk to you offline.
Better not protest.
I thought there was another announcement you were planning on making right around that time, but I could be wrong. After. All right. We'll have to talk then. I'll try to get it out before then, but if you want it to,
like the studios, the Hollywood studios, they're always bottlenecking production because they're always, waiting to line up with the right season. I don't know.
We're thinking about race swapping your role.
Right, exactly. We'll talk because I know you have another big announcement coming up, which we're not going to jump the gun on, but we just teased out for everybody here. So my bad on that, but we won't get into any further detail, but I'm excited for that too. So however you want to coordinate how we drop certain things, that's up to you, my friend. But let's get to the big story of the night. Jose's gone viral several times, but this time Jose and Russ did an action, had a little hot date with Rachel Maddow on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. Rachel Maddow was there on a book tour. She was giving a book reading along with an interview moderated by the great Ben Stiller. And you want to set up how this went? I mean,
Ben Stiller.
Most of you guys have already seen the video. There are two videos, really, but Russell cut in some other stuff. So why don't we take it from the top here? Why don't we first just show Jose's intervention, and then we'll get into how that went, and then we'll show more, or do you want to just play the whole thing through when we can?
Why don't we just play the whole video, and then we'll do commentary on it?
Sounds good.
There's like I cut together your action, my action, and a little of what happened in between that you didn't see. Because Jose before we went in, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not sitting through that shit. I'm going at the beginning. I'm going right as soon as she starts reading. I'm going." And he did.
There is a little
true to his word.
Why don't we do a little backstory in advance? Because Jose, I saw you on Hard Lens this morning, and as I understand, Russell, you're going to be on Hard Lens tomorrow morning.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Beautiful. So, Jose, you were saying part of the reason why you didn't want to stay until the Q&A is because you read the first 3 pages of her book and figured this event's going to be too boring for me to sit through, right? Because what it was is for $50, which we picked up the tab on the tickets. We thought that was only fair given all the great work you've done. By the way, patrons, you made this happen. Anybody who submitted to our GoFundMes and things like that, this is what we use it for. Wasn't cheap to get in there. $50 a head, but that comes with the book.
53.
Oh, 53 with the little, Eventbrite, little, cut off the top there.
Wow.
Your patron dollars at work.
At work, the backbone of the show. But anyway, with the ticket price, you got a book. And so I guess they handed out books at the beginning. And Jose, you started reading and you thought based on what you read, there's no way you're going to be able to sit through this.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because no. The first 3 pages were about what version of Dracula or something was like gay erotica. So,
I'm assuming she was referring to Nosferatu.
No, 1917 novelization on something. And,
she wasn't talking about the movie adaptation.
No, she wasn't talking about the movie. Hold on, sorry, my cat got his
that's your cat down there. What? Yeah,
he's like getting his claw just got stuck in like my computer fan. So I just like unplugged the computer.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Electrocute himself. Oh, this idiot!
You don't want that, Ozzy, right?
Ozzy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you dummy! I keep telling you not to be back. There you go. Okay, he's free.
Beautiful.
And he's gone. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that.
That's all right.
It's all right.
Dummy here. I love him though. Right. The book. It was just about complaining about how this vampire book is all gay erotica or something, and that it wasn't even good, and that they were going after the author, saying that the author admired 3 people. It was Oscar Wilde, Christ, and I forget who the third person was, and that that's all you needed in life. And so then Rachel Maddow was making a point about how this is how fascism starts or something.
Interesting. Yeah. Sounds like you wanted to get out of there quickly, which you did because you intervened very early on. You didn't get to see Ben Stiller. You just intervened during the reading portion of the
Jose literally, it was about 5 minutes into the event. The rabbi talked for a couple of minutes.
We gotta let him talk.
Yeah.
So
I mean, with typical victim complex, which we'll get into. Hey, I could get away with it. We could get away with those things. No, I mean the whole tone of the event, like you would think that the Palestinians are like the ghosts in a Pac-Man game for all of the material reality they had at that event. It was all this is what I keep saying. It's just like they never left the perspective about Zionism that I have not been exposed to since I was a child, and that's what keeps striking me because I grew up with Italians. They kicked me out of Hebrew school when I was 9. Jose now knows the true story about that, which he will never share.
No.
I mean, the story I tell about why I got kicked out is part of the truth, but there's a fuller truth on that I will not tell on the air. But it's amazing to me how this whole idea that anyone who gives pushback to Israel is basically a Nazi or Nazi aligned. And this is why they were so happy to have Maddow, because she just wrote this book about fascism in America. And Maddow being the piece of fucking excrement with absolutely no regard for the consequences of how she uses her platform that she is, was perfectly happy to just feed into that narrative. And she knew what her audience wanted, and that's what she does. She gives it to them. She gives comfort to dumb libs and their preferred fairy tales. And she was in front of this audience of Upper East Side, mostly Jewish shit libs. And she was very happy to tie in this history of fascism in America that she had uncovered in her book to what's happening now with Palestine and people who are protesting for the Palestinians. But she's smart. She never said anything like that explicitly, but it was so strongly implied in the way she framed things on stage, she didn't have to.
All right, so let's take a look at the actions and the videos.
I have a television show, which I know technically is sort of like public speaking, but I can't see anybody's face when I do that, so you're freaking me out.
Rachel, I'd rather not listen to your boring book because you are here to get Israel wrong yet again, just like you got 2016 wrong yet again. All you are is the biggest warmonger. You and the rest of the media are the biggest warmongers ever. Why is it that other countries are calling for peace? Brazil, Russia, India, and China all call for peace from the United Nations. And what do? You're just a big, ugly face. You're a warmonger. All of you are just straight warmongers. That's right. Look at what they do to free speech. There's an ethnic cleansing in Gaza, and all you do is tell lies about it. You and the rest of the media are warmongers. Every single one of you.
Look at that. Keeps going as they're literally carrying you out all limbs.
Jose is a pro, man. He's a pro.
Bye-bye.
You have to go on. You have to.
Now, Maddow never says anything. She never engages. Even when Max Blumenthal did his intervention, she just stands and waits.
He was one of the most successful and celebrated industrialists on the planet. His anti-Semitism was rank.
I know she was waiting for people to call.
You are being told that there are people among us who are parasites, who are so nefarious they can't be trusted to have any say in anything. They need to be driven out of our collective living space. It is to take away your rights. It is to take away democracy from everyone.
This is Russell's edit.
I feel like understanding that, grokking that myself.
Well, they sure as hell didn't put that up on the screen.
They didn't show this graphic on the screen there.
Well, she's unironically talking about how when you other people, it's a preamble to taking away your rights. Like, this is what I mean. She's feeding them exactly what they want.
I'm good at arguing against bad political projects. I'm less good at arguing against people who scare me.
I'm going to go to a couple other questions here.
I'll give shorter answers. I'm sorry, I get excited.
Well,
this is where I decided to interrupt very shortly after, because it just turns into, how do you do what you do, Rachel?
Right.
You know, you're so amazing. What's your process? It went to that.
Rachel, would you consider Benjamin Netanyahu an authoritarian foreign leader?
Sit down.
Can you please answer that?
We're not here to
Would you consider Netanyahu a dangerous authoritarian foreign leader? Will you answer that? Will you stand up for the Muslim anchors at MSNBC who have been taken off the air? Will you speak for them? Will you speak up for them? What do you call a country that bombs people in a hospital? Is that fascism? Do you only see fascism when it's wearing a red hat?
All right. So after that,
oh yeah,
there was a bit of a complicated process in here, let me start that sentence again. Getting out of there was a bit of a complicated process, right? They didn't exactly let you go easy.
Yeah, okay, because they had a guy, I don't know, man, but I'm a native New Yorker. I'm almost positive their head of security was an ex-cop. And my read on it is he was already fucking so pissed about Jose that by the time he got to me, and also you got to remember, how does this make him look, right? He's the head of security. God, man, you got a brown guy got in there who wasn't working for the temple, You should have checked him better, right? Like, he's already anticipating what kinds of questions he's going to get. And if you notice, Jose, a lot of people commented about that on your video. There are literally 2 brown people in that whole place. There's you, and there was 1 black guy on the security team.
On the security team, God.
And that was it. So with me, he wanted to make an example of me. So because I went back and I shot some footage of this. Yeah, he wasn't just playing games. He had contacts in the force, and he was trying to get them to call people that he knows to get me arrested. Like, he really wanted to put me in cuffs.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other thing that pissed him off is that if you have some smart ass kid who thinks he knows the law better than he does, which I do, he's definitely going to be really already pissed off. So, because I came out guns blazing, like because the private security dragged me out to the cops. That's what happened. So,
right.
And he's like, have the NYPD interview him and ID him right now. And so the NYPD's like, what's going on, man? What happened? And I said, nothing. I just decided to stand up and heckle. I want my stuff so I can go. And the cop was like, hey, listen, this is a private event. And I said, yeah, well, my free speech doesn't end at a private event. I know my goddamn rights. Now let me get my stuff so I can get out of here. And the bald-headed guy was just furious because he said, well, get his ID. It's like, no. He's not getting my ID. You're getting me my stuff back. And I said, here's my card, as in my tag, because you had to check in your tag before you went in. And then the guy just walked away and said, I don't want your fucking card. And so I was like, it's my tag card, you idiot. And so
look, everything you did was completely legal. It was probably against the rules, which is why they made you leave. Fair enough. But it's not illegal. There's nothing illegal about that. You're paying customers. The show sucked. And so you voiced your opinion. Hey, this fucking show sucks. I paid $50 to get in here.
This isn't the Ice Capades.
We get heckled all the time when our show sucks. We get heckled when our show doesn't suck. What? Yeah. You know what I mean?
We didn't get our books. We didn't keep our books. I don't know what the hell that was about.
That was the thing. Russell said on the way out, you asked the security guard, what about my book? That's here. Yeah, I want to play this. So this was after you guys walked away, without having to spend the night in the Slammer. Here's a little post game on, what was this, Lexington?
Yeah.
Walking down Lexington Avenue.
Right by Hunter College.
All right, so somebody's saying in there, Russ donning the shitlib disguise. You're right. I went and got a haircut. I decided to wear glasses so I would look completely Jewy and nondescript. I put on my Shawshank Redemption glasses.
Well, that's your Patreon money at work too. You had to buy a $400 set of nerdy looking frames.
I went full brown guy Palestinian with the hat going in, and that was on my mind. So I took the hat off because I was like, how do I look as unthreatening as possible? And my mind was like, yeah, maybe if I take the hat off, then they won't shoot me.
Right. So, yeah. Right. Of course. All right.
I mean, honestly, it was a concern. Like because of the tension of the moment. Yeah. Like before we went in, I really wasn't sure what was going to go down. Yeah. Seriously, man. Once we got in, I felt more confident once I scoped what the security situation was. But beforehand, I was like, before we got there, just knowing everything that's happening, I was like, is there going to be a SWAT team outside here?
No, yeah.
Because it's one of the world's most famous synagogues. This was Temple Emmanuel. It's one of the oldest in the world. It's 180 years old. You can see from the video, it's enormous. So yeah, you never know, man. Do they see? This is the thing with cops, and I'm sure Jose knows this. Like, yeah, you can know all those rights, and they can just decide you don't have those rights, and then they'll lie about it later.
Oh yeah, if they want you to spend a few nights in the canner, in the can, you will.
Yes,
you
exactly.
Will. All right, here you are, walking down the street afterwards.
Yes.
All right, so this is me and Jose here in our post-action mode.
Did you get the book?
No, man. I said to him when he was taking me out, I was like, what about my book? He goes, fuck your book.
Oh, man.
Yeah, all right, how'd I do, man?
You did good.
That was the first time that I did that, man.
Well, how were you feeling beforehand?
It's
not easy, right?
It's not only nerve-wracking on like just that, like, like breaking the social contract level.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you kind of feel bad for that lady next to you who got up so you could go to the bathroom. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I'm about to shatter this woman's whole fucking evening. You know, she's just dumb. She doesn't know better. You know, it's like beating up a horse or something.
As much as it sucks, I try to sit next to old ladies in the middle because when the security says you got to move, they're the slowest to move.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I had some pretty slow people next to me, but they got to me pretty fast. I would have kept filming when they took me out, but I was afraid they were going to get my phone.
I have the no. They legally can't do that either.
Yeah, but they could shut it off or something.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
No, if they do, that's a fat lawsuit. I looked into all of this. They almost did that to me once, and well, anyway.
See, Jose knows his shit, man.
Jose's
like a jailhouse lawyer over there.
We need like 300 of you doing what we just did tonight.
Damn right. Damn right. Make Gotham ungovernable.
You know, this is
Go Bane on their asses.
It's been a year now since I did the AOC intervention. And now, you know, we bring it back with the Rachel Maddow one. So I think October is just, you know, it's got something in it, but...
It's Action-tober.
Action-tober, yeah.
So do an action near you, kids. Totally non-violently and within the bounds of the law.
Exactly. Use your First Amendment.
Jose says, use your First Amendment, kids.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Peace.
Well done, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I wish I could have kept filming on the way out. I was very afraid of getting separated from that phone. So I just shoved it down in my pocket as soon as they got a hold of me.
I understand completely.
But when they were dragging me out, I was screaming at them. I was like, you're all fascists. You are the fascists you say you hate. Like what I was saying to them on the way out was actually better, but I couldn't film it. Some of those people filmed it, but we probably don't circulate in the same spaces on social media as they do. I'm sure there are videos up from other people.
Hey, maybe we can.
We just haven't seen them.
There was one. I saw one of Jose's. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where?
It was on some YouTube channel. I forget. It was small. It must have been from either one of the attendees. It must have been one of the attendees just uploaded it to like their personal YouTube page or something like that. But it wasn't as good a shot as Russ got. Russell had a really good angle on it. And so I mean, it was something that we, had planned to do because we knew that she was doing a book tour and we thought we should, make our opinions known because we knew what the theme of the book tour was going to be. And so going in, Russell was going to ask if the IRS visiting Matt Taibbi's house on the day he testified to the new church committee was fascism and stuff like that. But I mean, given the events, it just didn't make sense.
Events overtook it.
Yeah, it didn't make sense to talk about anything but this.
The original question was going to be if Israel is a fascist state. But then during her speech, which you were already gone for, kid. When she was speaking, she said, she made a little joke where she goes, and we have this problem now overseas with foreign authoritarian leaders. And I was like, all right.
Right there.
So Netanyahu's not a dangerous foreign authoritarian leader, so I switched it.
And there was no mention of Netanyahu, no criticism of Israel at all throughout the whole night. I mean, it's just amazing.
No. The entire time, this is what I'm saying. Maddow is smart enough to peddle her propaganda and to feed their fantasy of absolute innocence and victimhood in a way that she can walk away with her hands clean. Because she never said anything directly saying, well, this is like the Nazis. But it was so implicit in everything she was saying that their self-justifying vision of themselves as facing anti-Semitism yet again, as they have faced through the ages, as people protest for the Palestinians who murdered them. She played to that all night without ever saying it. So nobody can ever come back and say, Rachel, this is terrible. You said that they should go into Gaza. She never said anything like that, but it was so woven into everything she said.
Yeah, I think the other reason I was so pissed off being there and why I wanted to go early was because we got there at like 6 o'clock, and I thought the event started at 7, but it started at 7:30. So I got down at 6:15, and I was pissed off because all I heard around me were like these 60, 70, 80-year-old boomer women like, oh my God, I'm so happy that other people love Rachel Maddow as much as I do. It's great. I mean, look at what she's done for women everywhere, really. And
Look what she's done for rich, arrogant women everywhere.
And before we went in, Russ was making like, oh, I wonder what kind of audience this is. And he started doing exactly what I just did. But I actually heard that. I actually heard what he he manifested it or something, but that's all I heard around me.
Well, it's not manifesting it. It's that he's
Barbara Walters. She pushed the door open, but then Rachel kicked it open for everybody.
That kind of stuff, It's like I heard someone say, like, can you imagine? This would not be women 80 years ago or 50 years ago. Now it's amazing. We love Rachel. And
they're they're so dumb. Listen, no, you're right, because you can even hear it on my video, on some of the cuts I used, where you hear people next to me going, yes, in response to things that she's saying. No, that's what I was surrounded by all night. People go, yes, that's so true. That's what I had all around me.
My favorite observation was Liam Cosgrove of Greyzone. He retweeted it and he said, more people were upset that I said her book was boring than the fact that there's ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza.
No, you insulted. How dare you? No, this is what I mean. This is what Russell and I have been saying for as long as we've had this project, going back before the YouTube years, is that these people do not have actual politics. It's all style for them. It's just a big social club for them. So insulting Rachel Maddow is, of course, the thing that's going to stick out in their mind over the substance of what
it's like
you're
you pissed on the Pope, basically.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All righty. Well, Jose, what else you got going on? What brings you to Germany? Are you allowed to tell us what brings you to Germany?
No, I am not allowed to tell you what brings me to Germany.
See, Jose can never say what he's doing. That's the thing. It's hard to make small talk with Jose because he's like, "What's going on?" Can't tell you. I can't say.
What's it to you?
Wish I could tell you, but I can't.
Yeah, no, I know. With China, I couldn't tell anyone, and then I think was it you or somebody reached out to me like, "Hey, we haven't spoken in a while." I was like,
"No, I reached out to you, yes, because
I reached out to you also."
I was like, "Yeah, I'm in China." So
I was in Italy when you were in China.
Yeah. So
I was sending you pictures, and then you sent me pictures.
Yeah. I was in China, and like I just do things I can't talk about. I'm sorry. You'll hear about it afterwards.
No problem. I'm sure. Well, we always hear about it afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't exactly live quietly.
And then there's going to be a big announcement coming in 2024, which I can't talk about yet.
Okay, so that's 2024. All right, so
that's January.
So then we'll definitely have to film out way before then.
I'm in Germany from November 15th to like the last week before Christmas.
Oh, okay. So you're there a while. Well, that'll be a beautiful trip. Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for doing your thing with us. It was fun, and a lot of people are seeing it. A lot of people are liking it. Newsweek just did a write-up on it. I'm assuming a few other outlets will probably pick it up. But always good to see you, my friend. Be well. We'll be in touch very soon.
We'll talk offline, and I mean it. I think we need 300 other people. Honestly, we need 434 other people doing it, one for each district.
I see what you're saying. All right, I see what you're doing.
That's what we need, and you have 1,000 people watching now, so there's got to be 435 in there who can do something. So
well, that's and we're kidding, but we're not kidding. Like, we do need to disrupt the narrative. This is honestly, when we did that, I said, you know what, man. This is like old school activism. They did shit like this all the time, man. They would go and disrupt these speeches, disrupt these conferences. We need to bring that back. We need to not allow these psychopathic liars like Rachel Maddow to walk around unchallenged. And because they're never going to invite anybody to ask Rachel Maddow questions like that. They're never going to put her on a show where she's going to get asked things like that. The things you've done with AOC, the things you've done with Nancy Pelosi. these are people who never get a hard question. So how are you going to disrupt their narrative if you don't do things like this? So we need more of you. We need more people doing this.
I'm getting rusty because, like, in the middle of doing it, I mean, I had this whole thing. This is the first time I ever wrote out what I wanted to say, and none of what I wrote out came out at all. I even read it 3 times before I went up. And then I was like, hey, and then I hit her with the, hey, Rachel, your book is boring. And the booze actually got to me. I was like, shit, wait, what was I going to say again? And I just had to spitball right there. You know, I like lost my train of thought. So, but once they pulled me down, I was like, okay, good. This now I was, maybe it was mid-fall, the synapses in my mind, the hamster started spinning the wheel faster and was like, here we go. Ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Let's get right back on track there. And so, you know, I need younger people to do this.
Yeah, you're plenty young, my friend.
I'm getting old.
You're a little out of line.
Get a little long in the tooth there, Jose.
Yeah, exactly. But no, awesome job as always. Always great to see you, my friend. And yes, we will talk plenty offline as soon as possible, actually, because I need some stuff for you for the film, and so we'll make sure we get all that squared away.
Take care, guys.
Jose,
all right.
Thank you so much.
Always.
We'll see you next time, my friend. Bye-bye.
All right. See you soon, my brother.
Jose Vega, everybody. What a man. The man himself. All right. Let's take some super chats.
He's a complicated man. No one understands him but his woman.
That's right. Oh, and he had
Jose!
a date. He told me he had a date last night, too. That's why he was a little worried about either going to jail or you going to jail and him having to go to jail with you. Ernest Dowson over on Rumble says, are you as podcasters allowed to organize and promote rallies on your show across all media? I assume we are. Yeah, why not?
We're not a not-for-profit.
Yeah, we're not a not-for-profit. There is a huge Free Palestine rally on November 4th in Washington, D.C. that the Answer Coalition is organizing. I think we should go. And so, you know, I hope everybody can make it there. That would be absolutely massive. We'll have more on that, obviously, as the date approaches, but that's the big one that's coming up. That's going to be in front of the White House on November 4th. And, you know, they're planning that a couple weeks in advance, which is good. You know, because that gives them time to organize and hopefully get a huge crowd there. Absolutely. Okay.
Maybe we can make that one. Huh?
Yeah. I
got nothing going that day.
Here we go. Ernest Dowson. See, I was right at the fucking diner. What does that mean? I'm not sure what that means. But all right. Thank you for that.
Okay. Is this the date I stood up 7 years ago?
It
was a diner.
Crab Eater Seal, thanks for the $10. Even my normie liberal friends are horrified by the assault on Gaza. The Bush-era Islamophobia Israel's attempting to invoke doesn't stick like it used to.
Yeah.
Woke imperium reaping what it sowed. Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. You know, then that's largely because of social media and the internet. You know, they're not able to suppress this. They are trying. Right. They're absolutely trying, and they are going to keep trying. This is something that I really want to communicate to people, and actually we should do this while we're doing our Patreon shout out and scroll. So, Jake, if you want to refresh that page and hit that scroll, you can support the show, folks, by going to patreon.com/do-dissidents. Our patrons and our paid Substack subscribers, they are the backbone of the show. They are what make this show possible. We have 934 in the YouTube chat now, 383 over on Rumble, so that's amazing. We have a great crowd in here, and we've gotten some very generous donations in the Super Chats, and we love you for that. We're very, very thankful for the Super Chats, but at the same time, we do have to communicate that by far the best way to support what we do, including the show, including, you know, whatever actions we can do, like the one Russ and Jose were just able to do, the best way to support that is to go to patreon.com/do-dissidents and sign up, because people are talking about Sabby being suspended. I didn't know that. I didn't hear that. I can't speak to that. You could very well be right. But the blitz of censorship since the start of this Israel war has just been unbelievable. JB, our friend over at RBN, got his channel demonetized. Richard Medhurst got his channel demonetized. Jackson Hinkle disappeared completely off YouTube. Eva Bartlett disappeared completely off YouTube. The first super chat was very generous. It was for $70. He's like, congratulations on the recent sub bounce. And like I said, very kind of you to say. So I hope I'm not rude in my response, but I have to be honest in my response. It's hard for me to even get really excited about the sub bounce on YouTube because I just feel like the shoe is getting ready to drop, and so the best way to keep us going.
How fast it takes for a guy to get whacked.
Exactly. I mean, I still like that the channel's growing. I like that people are going out there.
We took care of that.
I like that people are getting involved in the show and watching and interacting. That's great. But the only way to guarantee that we're going to be able to keep doing this is to censor-proof the operation. And the way to censor-proof the operation is to go to patreon.com or do dissidents.substack.com. Our members are what make the show doable. And they are what will censor-proof the show in the worst-case scenario.
Exactly. And you can see your money's going to good causes. You want to see more stuff like that? It's not like some other people who've said, hey, we're going to get a van or we're going to create an investigative reporter unit with your money. We didn't even tell you we were going to do that, and we did it.
Right. And
it's like your birthday.
Cost $106.
Yeah.
And Russell didn't even get his book. I like that.
I didn't even get my book.
Fuck
I did.
book.
I said when they were taking me out, I was like, what about my book? They said, fuck your book. You say you think you're a funny guy. I say, yeah, that's what my wife says. You're all a bunch of fascists.
I mean, you're a paid...
So that's another reason he wanted me arrested, because I was being a real fucking smart ass on the way out.
I mean, you're a paying customer. I mean, you have a right to give feedback. You didn't sneak in.
Yeah.
What do you mean I'm trespassing? I paid $53 to get in here.
The shrimp
to watch
cocktail
somebody
was
read
very
a book
chewy.
And answer questions about Beyonce. $53.
From washed up Ben Stiller.
Yeah. Right, the guy whose claim to fame is having his dick stuck in his zipper, right? That was the big scene that put him on the map.
20 years ago.
20 years ago, exactly. Eric Hussell, thanks for the $2. We appreciate that. Causing a ruckus, awesome, thank you. Yes, good trouble, as John Lewis would say. We're not causing a ruckus, we're making good trouble. That's how we stay in good standing, right, with the powers that be. Eric, member for 2 months. So is this how the Desert Trilogy ends? The Israelis believe Christians should be killed for worshiping idols. They hate us for our idols. I gotta say, this whole thing is very Book of Revelation-y. When wars break out in that region, it just has a vibe. You're like, here we go. Fucking mark of the beast shit coming down. Yeah, the whole show, the whole thing has a vibe. Yeah, everything now has a vibe. That's what I was talking about on the last show we did on RBN. Dave Morrison Show Care, thanks for the $1. Yeah, buddy, nice work, Russ. Having the drip that makes with the women with short hair queef. Yeah, he got. Yeah, I'd run the risk of having to listen to Rachel. That could be solved. Close and bouncing. Yeah, indeed. Ernest Dowson, what a very generous donation there. Holy shit. If I weren't stoned, I probably would have given $75. Abby Hoffman would be quelling. Well, thank you. That's good for a couple of cowbells. Thank you very much. Glad you liked it. Yeah, I guess some of you guys hadn't seen that yet. If you're not on Twitter, you wouldn't have seen that yet. This would have been the first time, because that's where it really made a big splash. The last I checked, it was like 225,000 views. I don't know. I haven't checked in a while. But Jake, our producer, tells me Sabby's last video was posted 2 hours ago. So I heard she had some issue with her stream the other night. Maybe it was because of a copyright claim. I know she posted she got a copyright claim. Sometimes when you get a copyright claim, they could take the stream down and you have to start a new one. So maybe that's what it was. But either way, I mean, shit's getting really real there, as I knew it would. And I have a pretty good sense of how these things go. Russell always says that about me. I have a good feeling for how these tech companies are going to navigate these times. And yeah, the feeling I get now is that it's going to become very, very difficult to keep these projects going on these platforms. Doesn't mean we won't try. It's not like we're not going anywhere. But the best way, and really the only way to safeguard us from that, like I said, Patreon.com. Hugely helpful. Liberals, Gonna Liberal says, oh man, what is that? Ayurvedicman. It's an interesting screen name. It's a hard
Ayurvedic man.
Ayurvedic
man. There you go.
Liberals Gonna Liberal, bring the ruckus, Russ. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Eric Rousseau says, all death and destruction, no matter which side, is on the heads of the oppressors always and not the oppressed. Free Palestine.
Right on.
Abiding. Thanks for the 99 cents. Kuzinski Big Sane. Thank you for the $4.99. And thanks, Lars and Ruin, for the $2 super sticker. We'll take, we have a few more of these. Wow. So we'll get to some more. Trondine, thanks for the $5. Just found and loved the show. By the way, I hope Keaton gets out of jail soon and that his granddad can come visit. Until then, get out of jail soon. What does that mean? That my granddad can come visit? Until then,
yeah, he's got a family. We don't play those games with Keaton's life.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because
me, I go to jail for a few days. You know, it's a short story. It doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that would complicate my life a little bit. Is going to jail.
Who's gonna miss me?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Tlai Luxu Gola. I saw some difficult names in the chat tonight, but thank you very much.
That's a Dune reference, man.
It is?
Yeah.
So what is it?
Tlilax. The Tlilaxu were these genetic engineers in the Dune universe.
Oh, there you go.
So a Gola were they would take the genes of a dead person and bring them back.
Nice. All righty. We will take some more super chats in a little while. I think we're almost up to date on Rumble Rants. We have one more. But thank you guys very much for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you're here on YouTube. If you're over on Rumble, we got a great Rumble crowd, which is really, really encouraging to see. Please hit that follow button over there. That is very, very important. We've been getting a lot of momentum over there, which is really exciting. And so thank you very much for being here, everybody. So moving on to segment number 3, President Joe Biden was in Israel today, and I knew there would be some news to wake up to, even though I wake up quite early in the morning, bright and early at 5:15 every morning is when the wife's alarm goes off, which means that's when I get up to go and walk the dog and brew the coffee before she leaves. But because Israel is quite a few hours ahead of us, I knew our presidents would be... What's that?
Friend of show, Tusker just reminded me.
That's right. We got carried away. We didn't even do that. We hit that a while ago today, too. But I knew that, since Israel is 7-8 hours ahead of us, 9 hours, whatever it is, that Joe Biden would be busy running his mouth early in the morning. And sure enough, he was. So this was the first stop when he got to Israel. Here he is at an exhausting, apparently this was a very tiring 4 or 5 minute press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu. Here he is when he got to Israel, looking like literally half asleep, reading notes off of his lap again.
As they respond to these attacks, it seems to me that they have to continue to ensure that you have what you need to defend yourselves.
See, this is now the third one of these in a row where he looks like he's falling asleep. But if you see right here, he has the note cards in his lap. And he's looking down like this. Let's see what we got here. It's an honor to be here. I mean, Jesus Christ.
All right. So somebody with a sense of humor has got to slip 18th century erotica into his note cards.
Yeah, just to see if he stops, if he catches himself, right?
Her tight corset pressed her bosom up almost to her slender swan-like neck.
I mean, just insane. Just absolutely insane. All right, here we go.
And we're going to make sure that occurs, as you know. And we have to also bear in mind that Hamas does not represent all the Palestinian people. and it has brought them only suffering.
Who's brought them only? Israel has brought them suffering. Like, this is what's so perverse about all of this framing. Well, Hamas, they don't care about the Palestinian people. They are just bringing all this upon them. As if Israel hasn't been bringing misery and death and starvation and poverty upon them for decades. Like,
no,
it's
but
just
that's the narrative. It's the sickest kind of victim blaming imaginable, and this is because that framing goes so unchallenged. That's why so many Americans don't understand that they're in a prison. Now they do.
Right.
Now they do. Now this has gotten a lot of press. But people's understanding, because of the framing, I think, if they just had a casual knowledge of this, was, their society is so dysfunctional. They could have a state, they just can't get it together.
Right. No, they act like it's just an impoverished and dysfunctional country.
That's
right?
it. That's it.
And they act like, Israel doesn't treat them well, but really, can we blame them for not treating them well? I mean, look who they are. Look at their society. As if they have control over their society. As if that is an autonomous society. When, of course, it's not. And Russell is absolutely right. This kind of language, I mean, he's obviously doing a very Biden-like job of communicating with, half asleep, staring at his note cards to get through a 4-minute. I mean, literally, this whole clip, I didn't use all of it. The whole clip, Netanyahu talks for a couple minutes. He talks for a couple minutes. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. We're going to go talk. It's just the introductory presser, for the cameras. Mm-hmm. He can't get through it without dozing off and looking into his notes. But he's doing a horrible job of communicating this, as he always does. But the line is the same. The line is, we have to keep in mind the security of the Palestinian people, and it's a shame because, Hamas is bringing this all on them, as if this is a society that has some sort of autonomy or some sort of self-determination, when obviously it does not. All right, let's let him keep going.
Years ago, I asked the Secretary of State when he and I were working in the Senate to write something for me, and he said, he wrote a line that I think is appropriate. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, I won't go into it. I'll wait later.
See, that's what happens. That's what happens when you try to ad-lib. If you notice, he wasn't looking at the notes there. Right. Something just came to him, and he's like, oh, hey, what I'm reading here reminds me of that thing that guy said one time. He said, forget it. I don't remember. That's not written down.
He said, brown people, they run really fast.
Right.
Faster than whites.
Right.
I'm not sure if that's true.
I'm not sure if I'm
it
supposed
is,
to say
that
that
would
anymore.
probably benefit the Gazans because they need to run really fast now.
I probably shouldn't have said that. I probably should have just said, "Oh, the hell with it."
Am I gonna get in trouble with my staff now?
I'll tell him that Netanyahu will like that story behind closed doors. That's the kind of guy he is. But I really shouldn't say it in public.
No, you can tell over the last few years, really, after the first year of his presidency, they sat this guy down with like jumper cables on his balls and fucking shocked him every time he went off script. Because now whenever he starts to do it, he stops himself. Well, no, and then he goes back on script.
Yeah, exactly. I like Robert Penner's comment. If you don't understand Biden's mumblecore, then you ain't blackjack. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's get on with it here.
That I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we got to overcome a lot of things.
Now, I want you to listen to that. The explosion in Gaza seems like it was done by the other team, but there's a lot of people who are not sure, and so we have to overcome a lot of things. Doesn't that sound like something Trump would say? Like if you just read that, people
and they'd be all over him.
We're very sad about that, and from what we know, it sounds like it was done by the other team, but people though not sure about that, so we got to figure out some things. It sounds like Trump saying, hey,
we got to find out what the hell is going on.
Yeah. We have to figure out a story on this. And you notice he's looking at Netanyahu when he says that. So this was Biden sort of setting up the story that it was a stray Hamas rocket that blew up the hospital and not an Israeli airstrike.
Their team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure.
There's a lot of people out there not sure.
We've got to overcome a lot of things.
You got to overcome a lot of things.
And it also means encouraging
people are saying a lot of things.
Capacity to help the Palestinians who are innocent, caught in the middle of this. And well, at any rate, that's who we are.
Again, caught in the middle of this. Like, what do you mean caught in the middle of this? Yeah. They are an actively oppressed population. They are an actively imprisoned population. They've been caught in the middle of this since 1948. That's when they got caught in the middle of this. When Israel became a state, that's how long they've been caught in the middle of this. This is another example of the propaganda at work. Starting the timeline at October 7th and going from there. Well, now it's this huge crisis. I mean, yes, it is obviously exponentially bigger because the violence has reached apocalyptic heights. But the kind of stuff that's happening to the Palestinians now has been happening for decades, regularly. That's the part of it that is hidden. That is the lie by omission that, not just Biden tells, but all of the media people tell. Rachel Maddow told it that night. How could you have an event, a book event on fascism and not mention a genocide that's happening right now?
Well, and that's why they love her in that room, because she, again, without ever directly saying it, very heavily leaned into the idea that fascism is synonymous with anti-Semitism and pushback on Israel is anti-Semitic.
Right.
She never said it, but it was implicit in the context, in the way she framed things. That was why I came back to that authoritarian leaders thing, because was really playing to that crowd by indicating those savage authoritarians overseas. You're talking to a bunch of Zionists about authoritarian leaders, and their leader's not an authoritarian leader, really. Right. It was just amazing how blind and self-deluded everybody in that room was, and that's what's so disgusting about Rachel Maddow, because there was probably one person in that room who knew it was all bullshit, and it's her.
Well, and you and Jose. But you guys didn't. Yeah. You guys couldn't stick around for the whole thing.
I don't consider us part of the room.
Part of the room.
You're definitely beamed in from another dimension.
Exactly. All right, here we go, folks. Hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 1,000 in the YouTube chat tonight. And over on Rumble, hit that like button as well. Thanks very much.
Not just me, but I mean that's who the United States is, and it's just not the example of our power. It's the power of our example. It's almost as important. The world's looking. Israel has a value set like the United States does, and other democracies, and they're looking to see what we're going to do.
See, he dropped a lot of hints like that throughout the press conference, because if you watched his stuff in Israel today, it was not as overtly hawkish as probably a Donald Trump would have been, right? Or George W. Bush would have been. Like that, hey, Israel has a value set and the world is watching. He's kind of communicating to Netanyahu here, hey, you guys have a reputation to maintain, because if you take this too far, we're not going to be able to keep the lie going anymore, that Israel is a state worthy of our unconditional support. Like, you have to hit the brakes a little bit. But, of course, you can't say that, because once you say that, now you're admitting in public that they are in violation of international law, and at that point, our support
they
for
dropped
Israel
white phosphorus.
becomes criminal in and of itself. Right. But you'll never hear him call them out for white phosphorus or say bombing a hospital. Now they'll make up something about how it was a stray Hamas rocket, right? So they'll never actually call them out for it, but he'll do kind of what Obama did, which is signal that you can't go all out, because this is just, the narrative is just collapsing, and they can't have the narrative collapse If the narrative collapses, then they have to take it up a notch, take their response up a notch. And that's really what fascism is. That's what our friend Tusker told us when she called in. I thought that was a great way of putting it. Fascism is the response of an increasingly delegitimized state. In other words, increasingly draconian enforcement to compensate for the fact that they are losing legitimacy in the eyes of the public. And that will become more and more severe as it becomes more and more obvious that the United States cannot, in accordance with international law, continue to support the Israeli state as it indiscriminately kills the people in Gaza. And so he can never directly call him out for that, but at the same time, he has to try and signal that they need to, take their foot off the gas. And they won't.
Yes.
Because they know he can't call them out. They're not stupid. Netanyahu's a much, much smarter man than Joe Biden. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, it's not saying much, but yeah. I mean, he's not stupid. He's evil.
Right.
You're seeing this really all over the Western world, and that's a big part of why, if you are still engaged with electoral politics, it's so confusing right now who you would want to support, who represents fascism. I think Justin Trudeau does. I think Emmanuel Macron does. I think they are fascists. If you look at what they're trying to do, and yes, that all fits with this struggle against their collapsing legitimacy. When you have legitimacy, you don't have to debank people who are protesting.
Exactly.
You don't have to go after people's families, right? You don't have to censor people from speaking, right? If you're confident that the majority opinion is on the side of the establishment and most people are content, you don't censor. Why? It's not worth the hassle. It's not worth the backlash. Like if you have any sense of how to wield power, you know that whenever you censor, it makes you look weak. When you start doing that, it's because you feel like the options are worse. And we're seeing this all over the Western world because the neoliberal order is collapsing. And at this point, even what I consider a very willful and by design attempt to keep people divided by keeping them focused on identity politics and culture war issues, it's blowing up in their face around this war.
Yep, exactly. So that was the morning presser. Then I guess, I guess Biden had some strong coffee and was able to stand up and deliver some remarks at the podium.
God knows what they're shooting that guy up with, man.
Who the hell knows? I mean, the Middle Eastern diet is very healthy. So, it's possible that he just got a little boost, But here he is standing up at the podium once again, iterating his concern for innocent Palestinian civilians, but also shamefully letting Israel off the hook for this hospital strike. So here he is.
We mourn the loss of innocent Palestinian lives like the entire world. I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza. The United States unequivocally stands for the protection of civilian life during conflict, and I truly grieve for the families who were killed or wounded by this tragedy. The people of Gaza need food, water, medicine, shelter.
Okay, stop. We have to take this one at a time because there's a lot to say about both of them. So there you have it. I'm saying, based on the information we've seen, we think it was an errant rocket. Biden came out and lied and said he saw evidence of the decapitated babies when he did not see any evidence because obviously no such evidence existed. He later had to walk back that claim that he looked at the evidence. But now we're supposed to take his word for it that, based on what we've seen, based on what we've seen, looks like it was an accidental thing that happened where an errant Hamas rocket just happened to land on a hospital. By the way, this would not be the first hospital that Israel has hit. Israel, they've hit hospitals before. They've hit schools. They've hit apartment buildings. They hit civilian targets all the time. But we are supposed to believe that, given the rhetoric we have heard out of the Israeli government and out of the IDF, we are really supposed to believe that this was not an Israeli airstrike? I mean, are we really supposed to buy that? Yes, we are really supposed to buy that. And folks, don't be surprised when social media starts making you buy that. The intelligence community is about to become the new CDC, right? During the pandemic, well, what the CDC says goes. You're not allowed to question that on social media or else you're off. Well, now you watch. Sure as I'm sitting here. Sure as it would not surprise me in the least if they make this an explicit rule on YouTube. Probably not Twitter, but maybe Facebook. If the intelligence community says that they have it on good authority that X party is responsible for X deed and you question that, you're out. Don't be surprised if they go there. That's how serious this is getting.
Well, sure. They've been wanting to censor people openly at every opportunity. This, they can hide behind the idea that they're protecting Jews from anti-Semitism. They love that, right? It gives them the perfect cover for doing what they want to do anyway. Get all of these political channels off the air, get political actors out of social media. They're on the side of the angels, right? They're protecting everyone from anti-Semitism. They're stopping all of these white supremacist Nazi people like us two Jewish guys and the Jewish people who have been kicked off and demonetized already over this.
Right. Exactly. Here we go.
I asked the Israeli cabinet, who I met with for some time this morning, to agree to the delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance to civilians in Gaza, based on the understanding that there will be inspections and that the aid should go to civilians, not to Hamas. Israel agreed the humanitarian assistance can begin to move from Egypt to Gaza. But let me be clear. If Hamas diverts or steals the assistance, they will have demonstrated once again that they have no concern for the welfare of the Palestinian people. And it will end. As a practical matter,
I mean, if I were writing a sketch about this, it would be a lot of Arab leaders sitting around going, what the fuck did he just say?
That's the thing.
What?
Let me be clear about this. And he's mumbling, slurring his words, trying to read the teleprompter. Let me be clear about this. We're going to get the aid is going to come in through Egypt.
Did he say we should all get together and attack Israel together
exactly.
in an alliance with the United States? Right. I can't believe it.
Yeah, no, just
like,
insane.
what does he
I want to
say?
be clear about what I'm saying here. Egypt, the aid's going to come in, and they better not block the aid, because if Hamas steals the aid, we're going to stop. That is what he said. He said, if Hamas steals the aid will stop. Now, this is the government that just told you less than a minute ago that they have information saying that the hospital strike was an errant Hamas rocket. So do you trust them to tell you the truth about how this aid is being handled? So you're going to let Hamas now determine the fate of the Palestinian people. At this point, why even express concern for the people of Gaza at all? You started this out by saying Hamas is hurting the innocent people of Gaza by doing what they did. But then you're also now saying that, well, if Hamas takes the aid is going to get cut off. So you're saying we're concerned for the innocent people in Gaza, and we don't like that Hamas put them in danger. But at the same time, you just said right now you're going to allow Hamas to endanger the people of Gaza again, because if they steal any of the aid's going to get cut off. And what? Now the Gazans have to go without water again? For real this time? Finally this time? Because there's not going to be any allowed in? You're just I mean, it doesn't even make sense. It's just so insane. Nothing makes sense because there is no case to be made for what the United States is doing here. There is no case to go there and say anything but you need to knock it the fuck off. You're committing a genocide here, and this is unacceptable. If you're going to go there at all, I wouldn't have gone there at all. I mean, the only response is to just, defund Israel entirely. There's no excuse not to.
And the problem with weaponizing the intelligence services is it's kind of like what they did with Colin Powell. The Bush administration decided it was worth sacrificing all the goodwill and credibility that Colin Powell had just to play that one card that one time. They were willing to just torch his credibility to get the war that they wanted. So they used him to go make the case that there were weapons of mass destruction because they had nobody else in their cabinet that anyone trusted like that. That's kind of like what we did to our intelligence services as a whole. By using the credibility that the United States had in the way that they have over the last really 20 years, like post 9/11, it doesn't mean anything anymore when an American president says this is what our intelligence shows. Nobody believes you. Right. Why would they?
Right.
You've lost. That is the sacrifice you make when you start using that credibility dishonestly to claim that you have evidence of things you absolutely do not have evidence of. And then it keeps coming out again and again later on that you lied about it. Who's going to believe this? Who believes you about Nord Stream? Who believes you?
Right, exactly.
And I don't know if anybody has seen this. And this is
even if they're right, no one will believe them, and they'll be right not to believe them.
Right.
I'm not saying they are, obviously. I'm saying you've dug yourself such a hole that even if you were telling the truth, people would not believe you because of your track record.
Well, that's what happens to liars.
Right.
And I don't know if anybody has seen this. We wouldn't be able to show it, particularly in this climate. The doctors had a press conference surrounded by dead and mutilated bodies.
Right.
That's making the rounds on Twitter, where they said Israel had called them the day before and said, why haven't you evacuated yet? We told you you have to evacuate. So, no, that doesn't look suspicious at all. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, they just did the press conference. Did you see this?
No.
They did the press conference literally surrounded by the dead, blown apart bodies. They just did it right in the middle of the bodies with a podium.
Wow. Just, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Let's take some more super chats here. Tusker, thank you for the $20. Appreciate that very much. Great job, Russell and Jose. Yes. Proud to be part of the left that doesn't analyze fascism by which hat someone is wearing. Yeah, that was a good line that you got off there. Under pressure, too. Under pressure at the end.
Thank you.
Yes. It must have been hard.
I got that in right before they got my arm down.
See, you were filming Jose, so Jose was able to, I guess, just kind of focus on getting the word out. But because you were, doing it first person, you had to make sure that camera was on and rolling and firmly in your grasp while they were dragging you out. Did they drag you out? Like, were you stayed on your feet, right? They didn't carry you out on all fours.
All right, so basically Jose pulled a "you shall not pass."
Oh, yes.
So they had no choice but to drag him out like that.
Right.
Me, I was like, man, I ain't getting wheelbarrowed out of here, man. I'll go. It's all right.
I'll go. Just let me say my piece on the way out.
Yeah, that was it. I did Jose. If you watch that, they tried to get him to go with that, and he wouldn't. He left them no choice but to literally carry him out with his feet up. They had to get him off his feet to get him out.
Yeah, literally. Yep. Yeah. Trentum says Gray Zone got cut off live for showing that video, so they showed it and they cut the stream. Yeah.
You're talking about the hospital
yeah, probably
video?
the video that you're talking about. Yeah, I assume that would be the one.
There's no way they would let you show that.
Yeah, no.
No, it is literally
dead,
bloody bodies around them.
Yeah. Blank Slate, thanks for $2. Rights aren't rights when someone can just take them away. St. George Carlin. Yep. Indeed. He said, you don't have rights. He says you have temporary privileges. T-Bone 316, $5. Dissidents boys, but that's okay. Common mistake. Hello from the Northwest. You guys rock. Russell, your new bookshelves look just like Katie Halper. Oh, it looks like Katie Halper's set there. By the way, you should collaborate with her. Same vibe, Yeah, we'll have to get some, vermouth and gin and some olives, and some toothpicks, and we'll have a party.
We'll,
Indeed.
Sip some martinis and talk about class
and
consciousness.
munch. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, but I mean, she has been. I mean, look to Katie's
No,
credit.
I know.
She's been
I
great,
know.
and she, she lost her job at the Hill over this, and she's been very outspoken, and
Yes.
so that all credit there,
Absolutely.
100%. Franklin Warsham, thanks to the $4.99. Russell, I was also kicked out of Hebrew school, but for slapping the shit out of my teacher. Oh, well, that'll do it. Franklin's first bitch encounter. All right. Well,
Wow.
That's certainly.
Well, when we hire an enforcer, we know where we're going to go.
It certainly constitutes a disciplinary issue there. Beboposaurus, thanks for the $10. Imagine how pissed the 3 security guards would be if he'd known Russell hasn't seen Spaceballs. Might not have made it out of there alive.
Yeah, he seemed like a big fan of the movie.
Yes, indeed. Eric Rousseau, thanks to the $2. Jose needs to recruit people in wheelchairs. Yeah, exactly. Jose dropped a hint there with that number 434. He says he needs 434 people to do what he does. 434 other people to do what he does. That's a hint. That's a hint that he dropped there.
No, really. I mean, people should be doing this everywhere because particularly when you've got this kind of authoritarian crackdown on speech, when the legitimate avenues. Listen, man, I'm not an asshole. Like if I could have asked that question another way, I would have. They don't leave you any other way. So we need people doing things like this.
Yes, I agree. You're not getting the hint, though. You're not understanding what I'm saying. 434 others need to do what he's going to do. 434.
No, I got
you
the
understand?
hint.
All right, good.
I understand.
All right, cool. Just making sure. Not that we can announce it anyway. You got a good poker face then, because I couldn't tell you understood. But glad you do. Scott Ritter says Israel would be walking into an ambush if they go into Gaza and could be checkmated if Hezbollah attacks from the north when they do. Well, I mean, I think this is part of the reason why Joe Biden is going there, and this segues well into our next segment. So why don't we do our next segment?
And this is another thing. Like, Zionists have been so weaned on the notion of the invincibility of the Israeli army. Never mind that they would fold like a card table without U.S. support. That this myth of the invincibility of the Israeli army is such. I was actually talking to someone today, and they asked me what I thought was going to happen, and I told them I think the Arab countries are going to decide they need to get off the sidelines. There's never going to be a better time than now. And they said, well, I mean, they can't beat Israel. I said, why do you think that? Like, why would you think that? Supposedly Hezbollah has 50,000 rockets that they've been saving up for just such an occasion. In such an event, Iran would come in, and the U.S. has depleted its stocks of ammunition and material, giving it to Ukraine. There's never been a better time for them to make a move like that. And the idea that Israel will absolutely win. Oh, but it happened in 1973. It was a really different time than now.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you talk about a conflict like that, this is what Tulsi Gabbard said in the past. There are no winners in World War III. World War III, partly because of what you just said, right? Times have changed. Technologically, times have changed, right? This is not going to be like, 1918, 1943, 1944. I mean, right. There's no way to win a world war. And that's what it would explode into. And that's why these times are just so dire. But when it comes to supporting Israel, why don't we do this next segment here? This is a quicker one, folks, but Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was asked the very question that was just raised in a super chat a few moments ago about support for Israel, given we are already supporting Ukraine. Neoliberalism is oriented in a way such that we're supposed to be skeptical of all this government spending, except, of course, when it comes to the military. But Yellen was asked, hey, can we afford to basically finance two wars at the same time? Here's what she had to say.
Paul Tudor-Jones, the famed investor, was on CNBC this week, and he said, "This is the most threatening and challenging geopolitical environment that I've ever seen. At the same time, the US is in its weakest fiscal position since World War II, with debt to GDP at 122%. Can America, can the West afford another war at this time?"
I think the answer is absolutely. America can certainly afford to stand with Israel and to support Israel's military needs. And we also can and must support Ukraine in its struggle against Russia. And look, the American economy is doing extremely well.
Can we afford two wars at once? Absolutely, yes. Absolutely we can. Absolutely we can. It feels like decades ago, but it was actually only 4 years ago that many of us were trying to get excited for the 2020 Democratic primary. We were still hoping that Bernie could pull it off, right? But if you remember, during that primary season, the entire Democratic Party, the entire media, was all in on the message that any spending above Trump level spending basically was off the table. Here's Amy Klobuchar in 2019 at a town hall being asked if she supports tuition-free 4-year college, the price tag of which, by the way, $60 billion a year, 60, as opposed to the 100 and some odd billion we've already sent to Ukraine, 880 billion that goes to the Pentagon every year. Here she is being asked, can we send people to 4-year colleges for free? Here's her answer.
Support free college for all?
I am not for free 4-year college for all. No. Thank you.
So let me ask you.
That kid looks like he's going to cry.
And I wish if I was a magic genie and could give that to everyone and we could afford it, I would. I'm just trying to find a mix of incentives. And
if I were a magic genie and I could find $60 billion a year for free college tuition, I would. But I can't. Now we're being asked, hey, can we finance 2 wars at the same time? Absolutely. Hey, come on. Well, I said this on RBN. We talked about this on RBN last week or this week. How do you root for this country at this point? I mean, just look at how ridiculous a country this is. Look at how unworthy a country this is that you have. Well, that was one clip. You all heard it. You all remember for a year, every single thing that could have helped give someone a hand up who needed it, whether it's medical debt relief, student debt relief, tuition-free college, a public health care option, anything, even a $15 minimum wage, not exactly the same thing since that doesn't come out of the Treasury, but, well, how are you going to pay for that? The guy says, hey, wait a minute, Ukraine and Israel, both wars at the same time? How are you going to pay for that? Easy. What are you, stupid? The economy's doing great. We got money. What's money? Just embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, when you look at this, it's one of those things. It's hard to see how dirty the pool is when you're in the water, right? If you really just take a step back, it's so obvious that this is an aristocracy / oligarchy / kleptocracy calling itself a democracy. For many decades after Rome had become an empire with an emperor, they called themselves a republic because there was an emotive quality, that it gave the government legitimacy to call itself a republic. That was an ideal of this society. That's the effect of our democracy. And they still had elections for senators, but the emperor had absolute power, so the senators were meaningless at that point. It was just a ritual. It was just a show. That's what we have. Our government is a show. It's a show. It's a veneer. It creates an illusion that we still have this democracy because there's this emotive quality to calling it that. But it's not that. It's run by corporations. It's run by the military-industrial complex. It's run by Wall Street, and we're peasants. And they feed you this American pride and patriotism shit to try to keep you in line. That's wearing very thin. And I was talking to the same person I was talking to about if this, war breaks out in the Middle East, was talking, about the invincibility of the United States. I said, do you know the United States military is, I think, over 25% under on their recruitment because it's a nation of fat people with diabetes. They can't find enough people who even qualify to fight in the military.
A larger part of
it's part of it.
The bigger problem is this. The bigger problem is this. The bigger problem is that nobody wants to fight for the country anymore because no one has any reason to believe in the country anymore.
It's part of it. But even when they go out and try to recruit, they can't find enough people who qualify.
Yeah, but I mean, the reason why they're having that drain is because of this.
Sure.
It's because it's an empire in decline and the writing is on the wall.
Right. But my point is, even if you turned around and had a draft, you've got a population that's not physically fit enough.
That's not stopping the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are just dragging everybody off. They're taking taking 50, 60-year-olds. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, you're in. You know what I mean? The ball's yours. But on the other question, so that was, the Yellen piece of this is sort of the economic question. But then the part that Russell's actually talking about was addressed by President Biden himself on 60 Minutes when he got basically the same question. And here's his answer.
Are the wars in Israel and Ukraine more than the United States can take on at the same time?
We're the United States of America, for God's sake. The most powerful nation in the history, not in the world, in the history of the world.
See, this is what I mean.
The history of the world.
This is the guy you
we
got
can
here
take care of
it.
both of these and still maintain our overall international defense. We have the capacity to do this, and we have an obligation to. We are the essential nation, to Paris.
He's really going fast.
And if we don't, who does?
Oh, we're the United States of America, for Christ's sake. Of course we can do it. We're the most powerful nation on earth. Once again, this guy, just like Amy Klobuchar, spent the entire year campaigning, talking about all the things we could not do because it was too expensive, and we just didn't have it together, right? Reminding us of all the high price tags of universal health care and green reform and things like that. And whatever everybody feels about those individual issues on the merits, certainly the obstacle was not cost, right? But now when it comes time to sell two wars, neither of which are of any national interest to us whatsoever, they're only going to ignite a global conflict that's going to get many people killed. And by many people, I mean a double-digit percentage of the world population, potentially. Now, all of a sudden, hey, we can do anything. We could do anything as long as it's incredibly destructive.
Right. Well, because that is what benefits them and their class. I mean, they don't. This is why they no longer have legitimacy, because they've become so transparent about their intentions and who they serve. What is in this for the public? What is in this for the people? And it does seem like they're moving towards this. You will own nothing and be happy.
Of course.
Right? Nobody can afford a house.
Of course.
People can't afford a house anymore. So what does that mean? Everybody becomes a renter.
Right.
Under the boot of not even a mom and pop landlord. I mean, things are moving towards permanent capital taking over all of this housing stock. They're going into all these places and buying up these distressed properties and becoming landlords. And because they're such big corporations, they're horrible landlords. They're completely unaccountable. They handle being landlords the same way they handle everything else. Minimize costs, maximize profits. So
absolutely.
What does that mean? Put off fixing the plumbing as long as possible.
Well, this really sounds like the solution to, environmental collapse that they had in mind all along, right? I mean, we've been going along for decades saying, well, how are we going to deal with climate change? How are we going to deal with a less habitable planet? And in these guys' mind, apparently the answer all along was, well, we'll just so much chaos that a lot of people die, and the ones who don't die are just going to have to get used to living as serfs, basically. They will own nothing, they will be happy, and that will be life. Right, it'll be a traumatic transition for a few generations, i.e., ours. But however many humans are born after that will come into the world knowing that this is what's in it for them. And the rich people will know this is what's in it for us. We have a better deal than 99% of the world population, and that'll be that.
Right.
That was their solution all along. That's why they never bothered solving this problem in ways that we thought. Well, what if we innovate? What if we electric cars and reusable bags and all this? They're like, why would we do that? Why not just cause 3 or 4 world wars? That'll kill off a lot of people, and then whoever's left, we'll just explain the rules, which is you're going to own nothing, you're going to eat bugs, and you might not be so happy in the short term because you will know what came before, but a couple generations down, the people who own nothing and eat bugs will know this is life, and it won't be so bad.
All right, they'll reestablish feudalism.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and
See?
I've made
understands. You got it. Feudalism.
Feudalism.
Exactly.
The people who make this argument the most, and this is where, we always have this conversation about who you work with. I'm sorry. The people who articulate that the most are the populist right. Like what you just described is basically the populist right's base case of what's happening here, of what's happening in society, what they're trying to do to us and what they're trying to turn us into.
Sure. Yeah, no, I understand that. Absolutely. All right. Let's take some super chats. We got a lot to get to, and then we have 2 more segments. We were going to do, because we blew past the segment we were going to do at the top because Jose got here early. Well, he didn't get here early. He got in here where he was supposed to, but our first segment ran a little long. But we are going to get on that Jewish Voice for Peace sit-in in Congress. That is happening right now, and we meant to add that at the last minute. We were going to do that at the top, but we will throw that in now for sure because that's absolutely worth commenting on. Mr. Fancy Pants, thanks for the $4.99. Appreciate that. Pardon me. About 1,000 of us outside the House of Congress today. Oh, look at that. See, I didn't even know that was the next super chat. Marjorie Taylor Greene came out. LOL.
She went right back in.
Right back in. So
she
you were there
with you guys?
Were you there? I guess you were there, right? 1,000 of us. That's beautiful. Roger Meadows, thanks for $2. NYPD violated your rights. De Blasio ended qualified immunity in 2021. Well,
no.
Weren't there, right? Or they didn't get called in.
No, they were there. The NYPD was fine. It was really the head of security. I mean, honestly, in hindsight, listen, I broke my cherry on this one. I never did this before. I've had a lot of dealings with cops, and I literally had to go through the system once because I didn't put out my cigarette before I hit the stairs of the subway because I crushed it out on the stairs. I literally wound up in jail. So that's my perspective on what cops may or may not do. I talked to Keaton before and I said, next time my mental preparation, if you're going to do shit like this, you have to mentally prepare for the idea, well, I'm going to go to jail. And then if you don't, that's gravy. Right? You have to go in with that mindset. I went in with the mindset like, fuck, I can't go to jail. So, that makes it easy for them to fuck with you, but it wasn't the cops. It was the head of security. The cops were mellow, man. The cops were like, yeah, whatever. Just don't come back here.
Right. I mean, well, you didn't break the law. I mean, I understand what you're saying. A cop can do what they want in the moment. And what are you going to do? Sue? But no, what you did was not against the law. You paid for a ticket, you got there, you asked the question out of turn, they didn't appreciate that, they threw you out, they told you don't come back. All right, fine, fair enough. Right. So if you come back, that is trespassing. Which is a little inconvenient for me because I was planning on having my kid's bar mitzvah there and I was going to invite you, but now I'm going to have to find another venue. But that's it. I mean, other than that, no harm done, right? No harm done.
I was going to, well, if you have another kid, I was going to be the moil.
Yeah, right. Well, maybe I'll make it up to you that way. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ellen, thank you for the $50. That's very generous over on Rumble. So proud of you both as well as Jose. Well done. Well, thank you, Ellen. That's great. How about a cowbell for Ellen?
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Mo cowbell.
Thank you guys for the generosity tonight on the Rumble rant and on the YouTube side. What a crowd over on Rumble. 433 over on Rumble. It's amazing. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you guys very, very much. And while you're over there, hit that follow button. We need everybody to hit that follow button over on Rumble. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, like I said, we love that you're watching on YouTube. Watch on YouTube as long as you can, as long as you're allowed. But we need everybody to sign up to our Substack, and we need everybody to join our Rumble. Both of the things are free. So dudissidents.substack.com. That is free. That is an email list. It's a newsletter. We let you know when and where we're going to be going live. And you get audio podcast versions of the live streams. The last one we did require some editing because there's subtitled video and stuff like that. But most of the live streams that are not technically impossible to put together in audio form will be dropped on the Substack. But it's worth it to join for free. You get newsletter announcements, like I said, when the show starts, where the show starts. And now that we actually have a good Substack following, because we had a lot of Substack subscribers sign up after those Jimmy Dore clips dropped, because they were really cool. And thank you to Jimmy and Misha and everybody over there, Pasta, Kurt. It was really cool that they clipped a portion of the video where we plugged our stuff. Like, they didn't just edit that out. They actually let us get the plugs in there in the clip, because that drove our Substack numbers way up. And so now that we actually have a good Substack following, we might start writing articles again, because now people will read them. We used to write articles a lot for Substack, and share them around. But once Elon, bastard that he is, throttled the Substack links and made it impossible to really promote your Substack articles on Twitter, we thought, well, if we write these articles, who's going to see them now? Because you can't tweet them out. And so if you don't have
a lot of time
subscribers, nobody's going to read it. Right, exactly. But now that we got a decent Substack audience, we'll start writing again. And so please join. It's free. If you can join as a paid subscriber, like I said, that's how you really protect us. That's how you protect the show. That's how you keep the show going. But please don't spread yourself thin for us. If you don't have it, sign up for free anyway. And rumble.com/DoDissidents. That's free as well, obviously. All right. Like I said, we got a couple more segments, but I knew we would have an active chat tonight, so let's keep going with these super chats for now. Thank you so much for doing that, Russ. Indeed. Hope you know how much it truly means to this former poop lib Maddow fan turned commie. Well, Russell's the same thing. I mean, he didn't turn commie.
Yo, that shit was personal for me too, man. She's like Fredo. She broke my heart, man. She broke my heart. Yep. I know it was her.
I know it was her. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
No, I used to watch her. Dude, I was such a Maddow fan. I used to sit through the fucking cocktail hour on Fridays. She used to do this little cocktail thing at the end of the show on Friday. And she would do and she would do like a quiz of the segments.
Oh wow, so you were a real fan, because I don't remember that.
Dude, I watched. Well, I told you, man, the whole nightmare. I would watch fucking Matthews up through fucking O'Donnell. O'Donnell came on after her.
That's right.
When I was watching it, he was in the 10 o'clock slot. No, I used to watch Maddow every night. As for so many, it was the Bernie thing. It was the Bernie thing. It was such a, they red pilled us. They just red pilled millions of people.
Right. For sure. Hot Channel, thanks for the $5. Russell and Jose still brought more diplomacy to the action than Biden and Blinken did. Yeah. To the Middle East these past couple of days. Indeed. Absolutely. Like I said, man, you got to say, hey, I did nothing right. Hey, Lisa, you paid to get in. You paid to get in, and the show sucked, so you had a right to complain. What?
That's it.
I'm not allowed to complain.
They shouldn't even play Freebird.
You got my $53. It's not like I snuck in.
Yeah, I didn't even get my book.
Yeah, and he didn't even get his book. Right, exactly. You should go back and ask for your book.
I should send an email to the synagogue.
It's funny. I texted Jose because Jose's phone was dying, and you were going to go in, and he was like, all right, how are we going to coordinate this? Where's Russell going to meet me? So I just joked. I texted, and I said, why don't you go back and ask to go in so you could film your friend? Say, hey, can I come back in? Just ask it very politely, just to see how they react. Like, wait a minute, what? But just like you assume it's no big deal. Hey, you mind if I go back in? My friend's going to do something, and I want to film it.
Well, tactically, these are the two things I learned from this. It never occurred to me that they were going to make me check my bag. Don't bring a bag.
Don't bring a bag.
If you can avoid bringing a bag, because that's what kept me there. Because otherwise, I could have just left when they threw me out.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole thing was I was trying to get my bag back. That was how they were keeping me there.
Right.
So don't bring a bag. If it's possible, having a non-involved party do the filming would be better.
Well, didn't they say that they were going to keep you there for a while? They weren't going to let you go. And you're like, listen, just give me my bag and I'll be on my way. And they're like, no, no,
Yep.
no. And you said,
Yep.
listen,
Well,
if you
that's what
don't give
happened.
me my bag, I'm just going to interview people on the way out. Like,
That was what got him to give me my
and
bag.
do more filming. Right.
That's what I said. I was like, well, you're making me stay here.
Right.
And
I'm ready to leave.
I could see the show was breaking.
Right.
I was like, I'll interview people on the way out. Then they gave me the bag.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. That was good thinking on your feet there for sure. DC, Gaza and West Bank, thanks for the $2. Much like Yemen, under siege. Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Eric Rousseau, thanks for the $5. Have Biden read Mad Cow's vampire homoerotica book. That'll put him down. Yeah, for good. Fall asleep. Cannot wait for the alien invasion. Aliens 2024. Yeah, I hear you. I hear that. Thank you, Eric. George Holstein. I don't know what currency symbol is that. I've never seen that before. 35 and 90 cents. Hello from Haifa. First time, short time. Okay, there are pressing charges against Israeli teacher who liked Palestinian post on Instagram. Wow, based upon new law against lowering morale.
I heard
hoping
about
for the
that.
best piece. We did. Yeah, we got to do that Friday. There's just so much. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's just so much to keep track of now. But yeah, we will have to do that on Friday for sure.
Unreal.
That's insane. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm surprised. Zoolander and Rachel Maddow didn't have anything to say about that.
Yeah. Very, very surprising. She wrote a book on fascism. You'd think she would have something to say about morale laws and loyalty clauses. And no, apparently not. Not.
Unreal. Thanks for the $2, DC. Gaza fired at Gaza, like Russia's suicidal pipeline. Yeah, indeed. They blew up their own hospital by accident, right?
Yeah.
Just one of those things. Oh, it happened to land. They fired an errant missile. It happened to land in the hospital. The IDF is a terrorist organization. Changed my mind. I can't.
Yeah, we're not.
Checkmated me.
You're asking the wrong people.
Tusker, thanks for the $5. The hospital strike was just a simple wartime whoopsie. You guys are being dramatic. I know. It's the way we are. Thanks, Tusker. Paul McCalman. Good man, Russell. Our media and politicians are neoliberal pricks as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I would argue Rachel Maddow is as damaging to the nation as any politician you can name. She has done as much damage to the country as any living politician because of the way that she drove the liberal class into a frenzy around this conspiracy theory when, hey, there are legitimate things that she could have directed her audience to prosecute against Trump. There are legitimate lines of argument, but not that one. But she liked that one. It was easy. It brought in viewers. It was very dramatic. She never actually had to prove anything. There was always a cliffhanger. You have to watch, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. If you talk to those Russiagate morons, it was like a serial where you had to tune in to find out what happened next on the next episode. It was tailor-made. In my research, I didn't have enough time to get into everything I might have gotten into with her. Not that I would have gotten an answer. But in my research, I knew that she had spoken of Roger Ailes as a friend.
Right. Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And so in my research, what she actually said about him was that he was a mentor to her and she consulted him on how to improve her performance as a broadcaster. And that makes a lot of sense. That is how she wound up being such a Fox News-esque figure. She talked to Roger Ailes, who had no ethics, right, about how you draw people in. And Russiagate is perfect if you have a kind of Roger Ailes theory of media, right? I mean, just just gin up this
exactly.
conspiracy theory that has built-in twists and turns, and it's never really going to resolve itself, right? And I mean, she's just an absolute sociopath. You know, I mean, she just seems to have not a whit of care for what the consequences of the way she's used her platform has been. One of the most psychopathic things I think I ever saw her do was right when Trump was about to come into office. And she did that very infamous segment where she framed the idea that if Trump pulls troops back from the border, it proves he's a Russian agent.
From the Syrian border.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How fucking dangerous is that? To box in a president with that kind of framing where you're telling the public if they don't ratchet up tensions with a nuclear power, because in the end this was about the Russian Syria is a Russian proxy.
Right.
It proves they're a Russian agent, and she just did not care about. I mean, and she still doesn't care. She's going to go into a room, into this synagogue, in the middle of an ethnic cleansing, and feed into their core mythology of being eternal victims of anti-Semitism.
Right. Exactly. T-Bone 316, thanks for the Rumble rant. You're right, people don't want to be soldiers. They can't wait to get fighting robots out. Yeah, imagine how scary that's going to be. Almost here. Yeah. Yep. Jax Page, thanks for the $5. Appreciate that. If the Hamas rocket was errant, Biden would have never said it was errant. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, first they didn't even say. They said it was a blast. I know Senator Warren, Elizabeth Warren. The blast, I'm horrified by the blast. When the victims are Israeli, they place the violence and they articulate the violence in very active terms. Right. This was a murder done by a very specific person. Whenever there's a Palestinian victim, there was a blast. It was sad that this happened to them. You know, that's all. It's all subtle, but that's how it works.
It's the same way they describe the economy under neoliberalism. It's globalism, right?
Right.
It's something that happens to people.
Right.
It happens to them. It's a force of nature. It's like a wave. It's like a hurricane. It's like an earthquake. Right? It has nothing to do with anything they or theirs have done to people.
Right. Exactly. Long story short, thanks for the $5. Did you guys see the new Izzy 1DF YouTube channel vids yet? No. We don't need no stinking community guidelines. No, I have not seen that one. I will check that out, though.
I have not.
Sounds like it's up my alley. DC, if Jose runs for office, they will eat his soul. No comment.
I think. Listen, man, that cat's got enough soul. He's going to give them indigestion.
Oh yeah.
They can't eat that motherfucker.
No, not at all. David Nicolini, thank you for the €5. I have a serious question. Okay, is the free speech right enough to let the president of the United States tell a lie he saw pics of beheaded babies and got out with it? Is the free speech? You mean legally? Yeah, there's nothing they could do. I mean, they can't touch him for that.
No.
No,
if you could prosecute a president for lying.
Yeah.
I mean, who could serve?
Right. Exactly. Okay. All right. Let's do this segment here, folks. Okay, so this we meant to do at the top of the show, but this was some late breaking, and so we're gonna have to go to Twitter for this. Because we didn't have time to make formal exhibits out of this, since this is happening right now, and this is a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. Like we said at the top, you can't call it a silver lining because there is no silver lining to what's happening now. It's a world historic atrocity what's happening right now. So I wouldn't say this is a silver lining, but what I would say is that it is good to see this expression of humanity, especially here from Jewish Voice for Peace. So happening right now, hundreds of American Jews are holding a sit-in at Congress. Like I said, there were thousands outside, according to what I've seen. And we won't leave until Congress calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. As thousands of U.S. Jews protest outside Over 350 are inside, including 24 rabbis holding prayerful resistance. Let's take a look at the audio here. Ceasefire now. Chant going on inside the halls. We are here to say not in our names and never again, and will continue our civil disobedience until Congress calls for a ceasefire in Gaza or until they force us to leave. Ceasefire is the first step to stop the ongoing genocide. Ceasefire is the first step to stop the ongoing genocide by the Israeli military of the over 2 million Palestinians besieged in Gaza, unable to leave. Here they are. Great sight to see. In the past week, over 3,000 Palestinians, including 1,000 children, were murdered by Israeli and U.S. bombs. Over 1 million people are displaced. We have the power to stop this violence. Let's take a look at that. So they have a sit-in here. What we know from past Israeli state atrocities against Palestinians is that the bombs only stop once there is a sufficient mass outcry from the international community. It's on us to build that outcry as fast as we possibly can.
God bless them.
God bless them. Sorry, just kind of improvising here, folks. We stand for justice and dignity of all people. The only way to ensure that for Palestinians is to demand a ceasefire now, end the genocide on Gaza. So, yes, I hope they don't leave, and it's great that they are there. Jewish Voice for Peace, really, really important that Jewish groups speak up whenever they can. I mean, that makes a very, very powerful
what are they
statement.
going to do? Call them anti-Semites?
Exactly.
I mean, they will. They'll call them self-hating Jews.
Self-hating Jews, right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we feel extra responsible when it comes to just, speaking out on this, because it is super important. And it's just great to see, and we'll see how long they keep that going, and if they force them out. Like, what are you going to do? Force them to leave?
Right.
What are the optics of that?
This is the only way to deal with these evil psychopaths. That's it. I mean, you have to build this kind of public pressure. They're right, and their theory of the case is right. They have to build that pressure as quickly as possible to save these people. That's why I said at the top of the show, when our very generous donor was making a joke, half a joke, like, in other words, don't exploit the situation. He was basically saying, yeah, that's not why we're covering it like this. We're covering it like this because it would feel wrong to really cover anything else. We're not going to cover no fucking Ms. Marvel box office right now.
Right. Exactly.
I'm sorry, man. Like, I wouldn't even be able to get my heart in that.
Right.
These people are being fucking systematically murdered. Like, if we don't use our platform for that, why do we have one?
Exactly. I mean, you just you have no choice in a situation like this. We didn't even really want to do the speaker shit. We just felt like that was big enough news. We kind of had to. But yeah, I mean, who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Who cares about any of that? Who cares about the presidential race? Who cares about, any of that? This is really all there is to talk about right now. And I certainly feel like part of the reason this is where it is, not to have an inflated view of, what was possible in terms of nipping this in the bud before it got here. But part of the reason why it got here is certainly because people were lulled into thinking that there was really nothing that can be done. That's what Norm Finkelstein said on the Jimmy Dore show during that interview. He said, for the longest time, I just kind of fell into a despair. And I don't even think that despair is irrational. Because it probably is logical when you think about it, what is going to happen here.
Right.
But at the same time, when this is going on, like there's just, you have to do what you can, period. And so that explains
it. You know, I hear this again and again from people on the other side. And it's one of the most disgusting arguments. And it's in my video of the Palestine protests when I filmed the Zionists. The idea that there is no Palestine.
Right.
And somebody said that to me again today. Well, where is Palestine? Well, if you look at the map, that whole region is Palestine. Right, but it's Israel now. Well, not to the Palestinians, it's not. Right. But this is a very common argument from Zionists that I wasn't even like I said, a lot of what they're saying is familiar to me from childhood. But that I was not aware of, like that claim. Palestine doesn't exist.
Yeah, I had not heard that one either.
No, apparently that's a very common assertion that they are not actually committing an atrocity against these people because these people are want to claim a country that doesn't exist. They're deluded. There is no Palestine. So what are they even talking about? It's crazy.
Exactly. Tucker just dropped a video on Twitter, how to avoid World War III. Interesting. Let's see.
We'll check
Interesting to hear his advice. Maybe we'll get into that on Friday. Brent Yo Indo, thank you for the $5. Still don't understand the idea that Israel has the intel they claim to have to justify these heinous strikes, but allowed the initial attack. Well, I think we're saying, you're correct that Israel claimed to, have some proof that the rocket was a stray Hamas rocket. But
isn't
also,
that amazing?
But we're backing them up on that. Like Biden is backing them up, which of course they're going to. Just like they're never going to be able to say they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. They'll never admit that. They're never going to. If they admit that they blew up a hospital, then at that point, I mean, what you're seeing in the streets right now will look like nothing.
Right.
You know,
they literally can't admit it.
They can't.
They can't admit it. It's like the old Eddie Murphy joke about cheating. Deny it. If she walks in on you, deny it.
Right.
If she has pictures, deny it.
Right.
I mean, that's it. They can't because any claim to moral legitimacy after that is out the window.
Yep. Absolutely. And so, yeah, they will take that to the grave no matter what. Pastor Marty, thank you for the $10. The only way for this to stop is for left and right to come together. The real issue is not liberals, Democrat, it's them versus us. Yeah, absolutely. And, I believe, Pastor Marty, you said you were conservative last time, that you super chatted us. I believe I have that right. Being that you're a pastor, the odds are in my favor that I have that right. We need much more solidarity from our right-wing brothers and sisters, as Cornel West would say. We're going to play. I mean, look, I don't expect that from Ben Shapiro. That's our final segment of the night. Has something to do with him. But, this is a huge problem. Like when we dropped the Rachel Maddow video on Twitter, I know, we have obviously some more conservative audience members, some more right-wing followers. And, we love that about our show. We're very proud to have a viewpoint diverse audience. So all are welcome. At the same time, I knew that despite the fact that we were kind of taking the piss out of Rachel Maddow, who's like one of their favorite subjects to ridicule, I knew that no right-wing accounts, at least no prominent right-wing accounts, were going to share that video. And they haven't.
Right.
They haven't.
Right.
They're making hay out of her View appearance now. Because she said something about if Donald Trump wins, he's going to execute MSNBC or whatever. So you have some of the right wing channels are making hay out of that. But they're not going to touch this.
I mean that really shows how out of touch she is because his poll numbers will probably go up 4 points at that point.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, look, that's an unhinged comment, obviously. So I don't blame them for getting some play out of that. But I knew they weren't going to share this. Even though they don't like Rachel Maddow, I knew they were not going to be on board with the sentiment of that. Whereas had this war not happened and we protested her for the unfair treatment of Matt Taibbi, the right wing would have been all over that shit. Not for good reason. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been, but that's an issue that they would have taken up. And the other thing I'd be very interested, as this wave of censorship really builds around this issue, this is going to be a real test of a lot of the right wingers who have cried foul at censorship, because now a lot of left accounts, a lot of Free Palestine accounts are going to get shadow banned and blocked and shut down, and channels taken down, channels throttled. Let's see if they really put their money where their mouth is. Michael Schellenberger just put out a piece about censorship, and his publication ran what I can only assume was a horrible article. Why does the left love terrorism? Why the radical left loves terrorism, right?
Where is he? Is he a Public?
Public, that's his outlet.
Yeah, so, well, hang on. So, what's her name?
Barry Weiss is the Free Press.
That's the, okay.
Yeah,
right.
Schellenberger, well, yeah, I mean, she's obviously, but Schellenberger's not much better, if any. And, but he's a big free speech guy. And so let's see, how much noise they make when the Free Palestine voices start being censored. Remains to be seen, honestly. I don't know what to expect. I mean, Schellenberger has more integrity than like a Ben Shapiro, so I would expect more from him. But broadly speaking, we'll just have to see how that plays out.
I mean, a lot of the right-wing commentators are basically saying, this was Tim Pool's take. I've seen it from others. Fuck them. Hey, this is what you wanted, right? You wanted cancel culture?
You mean the cancel people, right?
Yeah, live by the cancel culture, die by the cancel culture. Especially, we were going to do this segment. We're going to hold it for Friday because it was too much tonight. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of schadenfreude around kids from Harvard getting their job offers rescinded because, in fairness, I am sure a lot of these kids, the day before that happened to them, would have been happy to cancel somebody for not wanting Leah Thomas in the Olympics or some shit.
Right. Well, of course. Yeah. Of course. But maybe this will shake people out of that, right? Maybe this will give people, hey, now your job offers are being rescinded. Maybe this was a bad idea. And yes, we were thinking of doing that tonight, but we're already at 2.5 hours. We have 10 more super chats and another segment. So yeah, we're gonna get to that stuff on Friday.
Well, that's just a preview of the Friday take. We talked about this a little offline. Those draconian sentences for marijuana possession stopped when white kids from good homes at universities started getting caught up in the legal system and getting those draconian sentences. That's when that ended. Right. You start to have children from the professional managerial class getting canceled because of their stance on Palestine. That is what will bring a close to cancel culture, because their parents are furiously making phone calls right now.
Right. Indeed. Yes. Dave Delarai, thank you for the $20 over on Rumble. Thank you guys for these Rumble rants. That really makes us feel better. For sure. Just getting comfortable reading on the beach. Wow, that sounds fun. How timely. Very nicely done. Yelling at Maddow and her stunt double. It's good. Loved your after the video celebration. Yeah, I like that one too. That was good. Blank State, I apologize. Thank you for the $5. Everyone should go subscribe to Beauty and the Boomer on YouTube, Rumble, and Roar Media channel on Rockfin. They've gotten a couple of strikes this year, really, for doing the unthinkable spitting facts. Interesting.
Well, that'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll certainly do it. Indeed. Which is why, folks, like I said, we don't want to tell you what to do, but it is super, super important. I know I'm annoying about this, but we have to be. This is something we've said was coming for a long time. Right? This is not a surprise to me. It's a surprise to me. Obviously you can never predict the exact circumstance that's going to spark it, but this new wave of censorship, I knew was coming. That's why we've been pumping the Rumble.
Much more than with Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, of course. Absolutely. I mean, forget it. If not this, what? If this narrative falls apart, the whole rationale for U.S. foreign policy and U.S. standing in the world falls apart. This is it. If they can't hold the line here, it's over. And it's over because they're not going to be able to hold the line, but they're not going to go down without a fight. Not at all.
Well, our whole Middle East policy is built around the premise of absolutely unshakable support for Israel, no matter what they do.
Exactly. Right. Without that, what is there? Without that, there is no narrative. This is the whole thing right here. And that's why things are getting so extreme. So, yes, we need you on that Substack email list, and we need you to follow us on Rumble if you are not following us there. We have a great crowd, both venues, 964 in YouTube chat, 467 in the Rumble chat. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's very heartening. And even if you're watching on YouTube, even if you don't want to watch us on Rumble unless you have to, get set up over there. Get set up over there for sure. Axel, thanks for the $5. Biden is like Diedrich Bader's character in Office Space when asked about the $1 million. 2 was at the same time. I wish I remembered that line because I remember liking that movie, but I haven't seen it in so long. But yes, good one. Mr. Fancy Pants, I left around 4 p.m. with still a few hundred people out there. Good. Excellent. We hope that they stay out there. And like I said, folks, November 4th, there's going to be a huge rally in D.C. And I think that will be very, very well attended because Answer Coalition did a great job organizing for the Ukraine rally. That was the one, I think it was in March. And they had a pretty good crowd. But this is obviously bringing people out because this is striking a nerve. Because the thing is, with Ukraine, you really had to know a lot to know what bullshit it was. It's not that it wasn't bullshit, but you had to know the history of NATO expansion. You had to know the tensions that existed between Kiev and the Donbass, right? Like, you had to know a lot. There was a lot of homework there before you could arrive at the conclusion that it was a bullshit war. I mean, I grew up on the Iraq War, so I just kind of sniffed it out instinctively, and I'll admit, I will give myself credit for being right from day one, but I wasn't right because I knew much. I was right because I could just smell a bullshit war when I see one. But this just hits people. Anyone who has any modicum of knowledge about the subject knows it is an apartheid state. Israel is an apartheid state. Now, once you learn more, you realize, well, it's not an apartheid state. It's an open-air prison. Once you learn more, you realize it's not an open-air prison. It's a concentration camp, right? But you start at anybody with any baseline knowledge knows that Israelis' treatment of the Palestinian people is unconscionable. That's the baseline. And then it gets worse from there.
Right.
And that's why there's so many people in the streets everywhere.
This is a terrible PR disaster for Israel because it's the first time there's been a conflagration on this scale in a world with instant social media access to images. Like the apartheid regime of Israel and the way that they've maintained it just cannot survive a world with instantaneous communication and video.
Right. Exactly. And that's really, that played a huge part because the mainstream media hasn't gotten any better. They've gotten worse.
Yep. I mean, actually, I can't say that. I told you from the beginning, I was very surprised to see how many headlines were sympathetic to the Palestinians from mainstream sources. Not that they said the Palestinians are right, but just that they're writing articles about the suffering in Gaza.
That's
Back
true.
in the day, they just didn't even talk about
20 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah, they wouldn't have even done that. That is true.
No, there was no other side of the story at all.
Yep. And that's where RFK comes from. That's why he's so bad on this, because he's this relic,
Yes.
Of the, that is a very old school point of view. Eric Torres, thanks for the $2. Didn't know neo-feudalism was right wing. Indeed. Thank you for that. Jody Hovel. And when Maddow called Buchanan Uncle Pat, gag. She called Pat Buchanan Uncle Pat? Did you do that? Or was that
that doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay. I can't tell if that was sarcasm.
She actually, I mean, it was interesting because in that same article, this was the big Vanity Fair profile. It was the first big article that was done after she announced that she wasn't going to be on the air regularly anymore. And she also expressed, admiration for Tucker Carlson and said, as a As a journalist, I want to. It's like being an athlete. I don't have to like the person. I want to see how they pitch. Fair enough. Fair enough. But unlike Tucker, who love him or hate him, he has a point of view. He actually has an ethos.
Right.
I don't believe that about Maddow at this point. I think she's a sociopathic grifter who, she took the money and ran. She got in as this leftist, and maybe she believed those things at the time. Clearly, she didn't believe them with very much conviction, and they offered her the money, and she took it. I mean, the things she's done over the years. If I had more time before they got to me, one of the things in my bag was, how do you feel about? Do you feel you betrayed your community running cover for Joy Reid's homophobic blog posts? Did they put you up to that, or was that your idea?
Right.
Because I am quite sure they asked her to do it, because she put out a statement. I've never been more proud of Joy Reid than I am right now. Really?
Yeah.
Really? Like, if you will do that as an iconic gay woman, what won't you do?
Right. No, exactly. And I think, one other thing, in her case is like, back during the Air America days, to be on the left meant to be anti-war. You really couldn't call yourself on the left unless you were anti-war, which means you just can it was very easy to kind of fall ass backwards into a left position back then. Trump made it so that you didn't even have to be on the left to pass as being on the left. You just, in fact, you could move very, very far to the right and oppose Trump from the right. That's what Lincoln Project did, right? That's what all these Never Trump GOPers did. And MSNBC has turned into not even a liberal network. They are a Never Trump Republican network. I mean, they really are. I mean, Nicole Wallace is on there. They had Bill Kristol on there. They bring Steve Schmidt on there. Right? These are all fun. Joe Scarborough, right? I mean, these are all Republicans who left the party because, oh my God, they got, indignant about Trump.
They got the vapors.
Right, exactly. It's really a Never Trump Republican network more than it is a liberal network at this point. All right, George Holstein, thank you for the 690 Steen. Okay, Steen. George Holstein, sorry. It's Shekels and new RW Militias. Nice. Peace. Thank you. I read that correct, right? 007 Angelo, God bless the good-hearted JOOs fighting for good. Yes, indeed. Absolutely. I thought you were going to hit that sound. That's what I saw you going for.
JOO.
Beautiful. Another one from 007 Angelo. Their voices are the only ones they can't silence. Well, yeah, it's harder.
Yep.
For sure makes it harder. Okay, we have some more super chats. We have some more Rumble rants to get to. Russell, we're over 666 likes on YouTube, according to Jake, our producer. Thank you. Don't get that. By the way, Jake, I have about a round of applause for producer Jake in the booth. He confirmed for us that Sabby did, in fact, get a copyright claim for playing a Russell Brand clip, not any kind of disciplinary suspension. So that's what's going on with Sabby. So good to hear that she's still doing well over there. All right, folks, one last segment of the night. This was a doozy. This went mega viral here. This was an interview between Piers Morgan and Bassem Youssef, who is an Egyptian satirist and comedian and television personality. And we're going to play the tail end of the interview. This is about a 30-minute interview. It was extremely well done on Youssef's part, but it did have to do with Youssef litigating the claims of Ben Shapiro on a previous episode of the Piers Morgan show. So this is the clip in question, and then we will get to the litigation of that on the Piers Morgan show.
Proportionate response to terrorism. I believe that, frankly, I don't believe in proportionate response to terrorism. I believe that the way that you stop terrorism is with wildly disproportionate response. That doesn't mean in terms of targeting civilians. It means in terms of killing as many terrorists as humanly possible and allowing them to dictate the terms of engagement by hiding behind civilians in areas that they are supposedly responsible for means that the only option for Israel is to surrender to Hamas's hatred of its own citizens, its willingness to use its own children as human shields. No country worth its salt could ever do that.
Okay, so that was what Youssef was referencing. So Piers played that piece again. Now we're going to hear Jeremy Boring, who is COO of the Daily Wire, some higher up at the Daily Wire. Basically, Ben Shapiro's business partner.
He runs the Daily Wire.
Okay, yeah. So basically, head Jew in charge of the Daily Wire over there. Here is Jeremy Boring sharing a panel with Bassem Youssef, talking about Ben Shapiro's position, and then Bassem will come in.
I do wonder whether Israel, in its blind fury, which I completely understand, has thought through the consequences of actually launching a full air, ground and sea offensive into Gaza as to actually what happens at the end of that.
Well, I suppose Israel wasn't really given the opportunity to fully contemplate what the consequences of that action might be, because Israel didn't instigate this war. This war was instigated by a horrible terrorist attack on Israel, and a state is put in a position where it has to respond. Now, one might argue that the very fact that Israel has yet to actually launch their ground invasion means that they are actually making a calculation about what the cost will be, what victory looks like. Any rational person, any decent person can engage in a conversation about what is the appropriate response for Israel. Of course they can. But this sort of moral equivalency thing, I don't think is a sign of decency to engage in a conversation about moral equivalency.
Let me bring Bassem back in. You've been listening to this, Bassem. What's your response to what Jeremy's been saying?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's name.
It's Jeremy Boring. He's the chief executive of the Daily Wire and co-founder with Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire.
Hi, Jeremy. Please say hello to Ben Shapiro, and please tell him that I do think he is the smartest person to ever walk the earth. Thank you so much. So, as response to Jeremy, I agree with everything you said. I mean, what is disproportionate? I mean, he just used the examples from Second World War and America, showing that civilian casualty is. I heard his voice. He was very sad. And as he was telling us, it is so inevitable to kill so many civilians because it's something that we cannot avoid. I hear the sadness in his voice. And I know
he's good. He's got such good sarcasm with such deadpan. You latch on to the fact that Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring are like the two, least emotional sounding people in the world when they talk. I could hear it in your voice. He was he was devastated talking about civilian casualties.
Well, and you can see Boring here.
He knows he's getting fucked with. He knows he's getting fucked with.
Yeah, and this really does show. We talked about this offline. I love me a good Babylon Bee article taking the piss out of the liberal class, but in the end, there's a reason that we're not on the right. It'd be a lot easier to just kind of have a business plan where the end game is to get a contract with the Daily Wire, right?
Right. Complain about Snow White enough until you get a phone call.
That's it. And come on, Shapiro would love us, man. Two Jews. If we went right wing, I give it 12 months, we'd be on the Daily Wire.
Oh yeah, because we're Jews. we are funny Jews, and his whole career is based on the fact that he is an unfunny Jew.
He's very unfunny. Yes, he didn't get the funny gene, that one.
No.
But you look at him, and yeah, man. I mean, I have appreciated some of the mockery that the Daily Wire has done. Like they've done some funny ads and some funny. Genuinely funny stuff, taking the piss out of some of the culture war stances of the liberal class. But in the end, it doesn't mean these people fundamentally have a sense of humor. It's very easy to make fun of people that would feel like they have to do Snow White but not white. I mean, that's an easy joke to make.
Yeah, it's low-hanging fruit.
It's very low-hanging fruit. But this, you could see having that lens turned on him, having him be made to look ridiculous. He doesn't take that very well. Look at his face.
He's very mopey and bitchy. Yeah,
exactly. He's a little bitch in the end. He can
Exactly.
dish it out, but he can't take it.
Can't take it, exactly.
That it's a very difficult decision to kill all of these civilians because that's for a higher cause. And I understand, but my question, I have two questions. The question is, how can you justify the killing in the West Bank where Hamas does not exist? And if the disproportionate response during over all of these years have actually worked, what will be new this time that did not happen before? I just want to.
Okay, so he's holding up the chart there, which we showed a few streams back, of Palestinian casualties, meaning injuries and deaths, versus Israeli casualties, and making a very profound point. Hey, if you're insisting that a disproportionate response is justified, as Shapiro was, well, then why are you still having this problem? Because you've certainly been killing and maiming more people in Gaza than people in Gaza have been killing and maiming Israelis. So why hasn't this solved itself if your theory of the case is so good? What all of this just goes to expose, in some conversations more than others, is that the plan all along, from Israel's standpoint, was to swallow the Palestinian state. If that means killing everyone, they're willing to do that. If it means driving them out, they're willing to do that as well. But then that presents, that second option presents the logistical problem of where did they go, and also the fear of what do they do when they're gone, because they don't want to be driven off their land, right? And so, they don't have an answer. This fucking guy doesn't have an answer to that. And this guy is he's clearly so ignorant of the history. Boring even says, I'm not really familiar with the history of this. Well, if you're not familiar with the history of this, why did you volunteer to share a segment with an Egyptian who has family in Gaza? Like, the arrogance of that.
Well, I was talking, this is a little bit of a side note, but I thought it was pretty interesting. I was talking to an African-American woman about how a lot of Jews keep tagging her and other black people in her circle with their Stand with Israel things, as if they're obligated to stand. And she said what we said. Who do you think we identify with more?
Right. Yeah.
Like a colonized people being pushed off their land, or the people who are bombing them?
Right.
But we'll get into it Friday with the Amy Schumer post. A lot of them want to, obviously with somebody like Jeremy Boring, they haven't been standing with BLM. But, elite liberal Jews who had the whole BLM in their bio are now turning to these communities and saying, you must stand with me. But they're trying to create a moral equivalency between the fight against racism, the fight against homophobia, and the fight to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from Israel. And one of these things is not like the others. And these other communities are not buying it for the most part.
Exactly. Here we go. By the way, I have to say, in the chat, who does Bassem remind you of? You know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Robin Williams. And I know that sounds weird.
He does.
But he reminds me.
Well, he kind of resembles him, and he has
the same facial structure, but also he has that same he has the same delivery, in the sense that he has this warmth about him that Robin had, and there's this honesty about him, but at the same time just a razor sharp wit. He exudes that essence, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
It's wild.
That was my question.
Okay,
that
Bassem,
was my question.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
So
now,
Bassem,
if I ask the question, can I say something on my side?
Well,
Bassem,
with respect,
a little bit personal.
Bassem, with respect, I gave you half the show to have your side. Jeremy's had a lot less time. I'm going to have to.
You
move
want me
on.
to leave?
Bassem,
I'm going
to have to let you go because we've been on air with you for 40 minutes.
Okay.
Now.
Bye bye.
But listen,
bye.
I would like to talk to you again, and thank you for joining the program. I appreciate it.
Oh, by the way, my wife's family is all right, and they sent us a house. It's bombed. It's beautiful. It's going to be a good Halloween theme. So
I'm very sorry for what your family are going through in Gaza, and I mean that very sincerely.
By the way, I don't know. I don't know I don't know him. By the way, I haven't actually met them. They didn't even come to my wedding. They couldn't because they are stuck in Gaza. Okay. And she never saw them because Gaza is not a destination.
Bassem, as I say,
we hear their voices, and it's they
look
die.
At the bitch face on the side, just knowing that this guy is just like skewering him with genuinely funny while at the same time just pitch black humor. Like this is comedy at its best, is using irony and tragedy to make a very incisive point in a way that is genuinely, despite the unthinkably horrible circumstances under which he's making it, funny. Like it's amazing. And I encourage you, like, we could have done the whole show on this interview. It was a half hour, and there's so much more in it that we're not getting into. But
well, see, yeah,
it's just amazingly done, really incredibly done.
In the end, this is the thing with these right wingers. Once you push on them like this, they're little bitches. I'm not going to say they're bigger bitches than the elite liberals. They're the same.
Yeah,
they're the same. Once you push back on their bullshit, they act exactly the same.
Exactly. They're just it's two sides of the same coin.
That's it. They want to, pretty soon they want to cancel people and they want to shut them down. And, they start getting all, look at them getting all pouty over there. I mean, it's funny because I consume a fair amount of content from over there. And, they just love to take the piss out of other people, but they really can't take it at all.
No.
I don't know him, by the way. I haven't actually met them. They didn't even come to my wedding. They couldn't because they are stuck in Gaza.
Okay.
And she never saw them because, Gaza is not a destination.
Bassem, as I say,
we hear their voices, and it's they die. It's fine. It's fine.
Bassem, I wish your family all the very best. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
I don't. Thank you.
That's, amazing. I don't. Yeah.
As I say,
we hear their voices, and it's they die. It's fine. It's fine.
Bassem, I wish your family all the very best. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
I don't. Thank you.
He's just holding up a mirror to these people. You know what I mean? It's like translating how they sound to him. Yeah, you wish my family well. Why? I don't.
Why?
I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about them.
Well,
just like you don't. You don't have to pretend. Like, we don't have to do this bullshit thing.
Right.
Where
It's
you act like
platitudes.
you care. Yeah.
If you cared, you would demand that Israel adhere to a ceasefire right now.
Right.
If you actually cared, what do you think's going to happen to these people?
Right. Exactly. But yeah, I mean, that went absolutely mega viral, and for great reason. I mean, it was just masterfully done. Just very, very funny from the very, very beginning. Just, a lot of obviously tragic points, but, very incisive and very, very funny. He had that Robin Williams thing. He has that Robin Williams thing, that pain underneath humor, with a certain physicality, a certain expression, but a certain honesty, a certain like genuine nature. He really has that. He really has
you know what is
He really
probably
reminds me
my
of him so much.
I think favorite Robin Williams performances where all of that comes together in one performance.
Let me see if I can guess this. No, I can't.
Fisher King.
Okay, yeah, Fisher King, that's a good one. Indeed. Yeah, no, it all came together. I saw Robin Williams in that play, The Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, that was on Broadway.
Oh, right.
And that was a wild play. That was about the Iraq War, where Robin Williams played the ghost of a tiger that was shot at the Baghdad Zoo. It was inspired by a true story. But that had all of it. A lot of monologues with just, humor, but real, just incredible heart. And yeah, this guy has that. Just a real guy, just a real person who's just so confident in that venue. As he should be, because he has the moral high ground. He has the facts on his side. And he was fair to Piers Morgan, because what Piers Morgan, like, to Piers Morgan's credit, he's not as vile as most of these people, but it's empty, and that's what he was going back to him with. You know, like, just because you're not up here browbeating me doesn't mean I really believe in your heart of hearts you give a shit. So you don't have to do this thing. Well, we wish your family nothing but the best. Yeah, well, I mean, whatever. I don't care.
Right. I'm so sorry your family is probably going to die in a massacre.
Right.
It's terrible. Yeah. I care deeply about it. Not that I'm going to speak out in any way, shape, or form against it.
Right. Yep. Indeed. All right, folks.
Yeah. Just before we get off the Robin Williams, what I would love to have seen. I think I was too young. I think it happened just a little before my time. Robin Williams and Steve Martin did Waiting for Godot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would have been good.
They did. It was set in like under a tree in the Nevada desert.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would have been good. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Lloyd Hart, thanks for the $1. It seems that the Lincoln Project that runs Biden's brain peed their pants over war over Taiwan independence and went for Gaza. Instead, to pass a new $50 billion stanch of funding for the Ukraine. Yeah, I mean, this was something that, look, there's a lot of explanations for why this happened when it did. Some more conspiratorial than others, and I don't mean that as in a pejorative sense. I just mean there are questions about the genesis of the original Hamas attack and why and how. But ultimately, I mean, what we've said basically from the beginning of this is that Israel made this response inevitable. They made it inevitable.
Right.
And this is what Jimmy Dore said on his show. He put it really well. He says, if you're an occupying force, you have the moral responsibility because you have more moral autonomy. Right. The occupied don't have the same agency as the occupiers. Right. Therefore, the moral onus is on the occupier.
But to have a critique of the Palestinians because of Hamas, it's like being absolutely shocked that violent gangs form in horrible prisons.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think is going to happen when you brutalize people like that? All the people judging that, if you put them in the same situation, they would make the same choices.
Yeah, and every Palestinian who they interview will say that yes. In fact, the other gentleman, Bassem Zumlot, I was almost blanked on his name. He is anti-Hamas entirely. Like he was part of the Palestinian political opposition to them. But everyone, even him and Youssef here, they all say that the killing of Israeli innocents is horrible. They all say that. They don't fight you on that, right? Nobody fights them on that. We wouldn't fight them on that either. My refrain always: violence is tragic, war is obscene. We don't celebrate or glorify the death of anybody. And they all say that, and yet they still keep going at them as if these are two equal parties, right? I mean, it's just incredible. It's incredible.
Well, we talked about this a little bit on RBN. This is a very old tactic of colonial colonizing forces to justify their barbarism and atrocities by projecting the barbarism and atrocities onto the people that they're colonizing, right? They're savages. And rape and murder of children is always part of that formula. It's always part of the picture they paint to stir up the moral indignation that will cover up their crimes, whether it's Native Americans, whether it's blacks. They always use that script.
Right. Indeed. SB, thanks for the $5. Appreciate it. Jackson Hinkle, Kim Iverson, and others deserve credit for being consistent with Ukraine and Palestine. Screw the hypocrites and the cowards. Tulsi RFK Jr. Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with that. Pardon me. Tusker, thank you for the $5. Want to recommend the Martyr Made podcast that does a 6-episode dive into the history of Israel-Palestine, style similar to Dan Carlin. Okay, yeah. Dan Carlin is what? What do they call that? Something history. He does the huge ones. They're epic. They're hours long each. Everybody. That's a very popular history podcast. Some in the chat will know what the name of that is. It's blanking on me now. But thank you, Tusker. Okay, we got some more. Beautiful. Okay. Virgil Ellis Wade, thank you for the $5. If there is no Palestine, it's even worse because then it's their own citizens that they are killing. No, right, exactly. It doesn't even make sense. That's why I never heard that argument, and that's absolutely true. It doesn't even make sense. Well, then you're just admitting,
not until this broke out.
Jail.
Right. Yeah. I started engaging with them. I started hearing that. What Palestine? There is no Palestine. Okay, so where do they live exactly?
Right.
I mean, they're living on land.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea. But I spoke to somebody today. It was chilling. Like they just very offhandedly said, "But what land are they talking about? There is no Palestine."
Right.
Well, I mean, if what you mean is that this colonizing force has virtually wiped them out and reduced their territory to these little strips of land, I mean, yeah, I guess that's Palestine. Or you could argue that the land you're calling Israel is Palestine, which is what I would argue.
Right. Laugh, thanks for the $5. Agreed, blank slate or blank state. All follow Beauty and the Boomer, Roar Media on Rumble. Okay, beautiful. Yes, follow that. Anybody who's censored anywhere should be followed and should be followed on a free speech platform. Absolutely. 100%. This is why, folks, look, I don't want to keep harping on it, although I have to, right? What's the saying? If I'm only for myself, who am I? If I'm not for myself, who will be? Right. So this is why we have to keep telling you, subscribe to the Rumble and subscribe to the Substack. Like, we don't mean to be annoying, but this is why that's very important. But this is also why we cover free speech as obsessively as we do on this show, because we cover a lot of censorship stories on this show. And most of the time, in recent years, conservatives have been on the receiving end of a lot of unfair censorship. And this is where people come away with the idea that we are closeted right-wing, this, that. I think we've pretty much dispelled those rumors with this last couple weeks of programming,
yes,
okay?
I think so.
But that's why we obsess on it as much as we do, because without that, you have nothing. That's what we say. Without free speech, you have nothing. Nothing. Nothing else matters. You're not able to make your opinion matter if you are not allowed to articulate it. And that's why we just need to have these platforms available and strong and supported. And that's why it is super, super important to join the Rumble channel. I mean, tonight we had a great crowd in here on YouTube. We had almost 1,000 people in here at a time, which is amazing. We also have right now, it looks like 471 in the Rumble chat. So it's not like we're splitting audience where, we gotta, we only have a set number of audience and, whatever. Watch where you want to watch, but follow us both places. Because the thing about being disappeared on social media is you don't get to come on and announce that you've been disappeared. That's like Portland style George Floyd protest. They put bag over your head, back of the van, drive off. No one knows what happened to you.
That's a silly message. I mean,
Right.
yeah,
exactly.
with the fishes.
So that's why it's important, and that's why speech is such an important issue to us. Kinky, thanks for the $5. My first church of chicken consciousness claims that Palestine was their country as long as 3000 BC. Yeah, so everyone out. Bennett Weiss, that's my dad. Thank you, Dad. Palestine is a country without land for a people without a country. Yep, that's a good way of putting it. Okay. Pastor Marty. There are voices on the right who are getting this correct. Tucker, Tim Pool, Mark Dice, and others. I heard Tim Pool with Blumenthal, and Tim Pool was not terrible. He was a kind of a fence sitter, but he is kind of a fence sitter. I mean, he's not really committed, left or right, really. He skews more conservative, but he's, he likes to qualify himself.
That's what I'm hearing from like right populists mostly, is I just wish there was peace on both sides. I abhor the violence. Like, they're just not taking a side. They're not taking a position with a lot of them. And then you have others like Paul Joseph Watson, who is like a, coded white nationalist in many respects, who does a lot of material about how Muslims shouldn't be in the West, essentially. His take is predictable, and he's not the only one with that take, where this just gives them an opportunity to express their feelings about having Muslims in Western countries.
Right. In terms of Tucker, I've only seen like a brief piece. I didn't see the whole thing he put out on this last time, and then he put out something this evening while we're here. I'd be curious to watch. But I've kind of heard the same thing. Is this our war, right? The more nationalist, like not really taking a moral stand on it. I mean, better than better than, the standard neocon line for sure. But I would hope we could do a bit better than that. Washington Turtles, thanks for the $5. Just watch your Brianna Norman Finkelstein video. I love the Columbo reference. Yeah. Yeah. Well, before we go, just one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah. That's how Columbo always nailed you. Always nailed you. Oh, yeah, and one more thing. The car was parked in the handicap spot. Yeah. That was what a great format for a show. Like, that was a really interesting spin on the who done it, where, like, you knew who did it, right? But you were the mystery was, how is he going to find out, right? How is he going to nail you, right?
Just one more thing. Don't you think your support for a half-assed Topanga Canyon hippie is absurd?
Yeah. Exactly. KD Nick, thanks for the $10. Norm Finkelstein had a Twitter stream on his scenario of what happened before and during Biden's Israel visit, starting with the 7-hour phone call to Biden reading Bibi, the Riot Act. So he did a Twitter stream, or was that like a video stream? Because I know he has a channel that he goes on sometimes, but then I know he was on, he's been making the rounds. We should have him on, really. We should try and have him on. That'd be an easy night for us.
We should, because the two things he's known for are two things we spend a lot of time on. Because we can really get into the Kendi thing with him, too.
Yeah, and plus I could use a night off,
Yeah.
With Norm Finkelstein, there's really he does all the heavy lifting. You just you basically ask him 3 questions the whole night, and that's it. Your work is done. So yeah, maybe we should. But thank you for the donation. Appreciate that very much.
I'm gonna throw him a couple of curveballs. I'll ask him like what he thought of the Chris Claremont run on the X-Men. See what he says.
I don't know why you brought me here if you were going to be so facile. Yeah. Tusker, thanks for the $5. This was an absolutely wonderful interview. You're talking about Bassem Youssef. Every dissident in the audience would enjoy the full one. Yes, absolutely. Uses the dark humor we are fans of. Yeah, no, it was great. It was great. He's a talent, and seems like a genuinely good guy. Cyrus, I need more cowbell.
Hang on, man. You get your own sound cue.
You get your own salute, Taylor, just for you. And he needs the cowbell too. Yes. Beautiful. Thank you, Cyrus. Appreciate that very much. Oh, look, this is nice. Our friend Jimmy Dore is in the audience. That's nice of you, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thanks for having us on. I just got a notification here because you're in the audience. Why don't we put this up on the screen here? Because I thought Jimmy had a funny quote tweet of Russell's Maddow intervention here. I think the audience will get a kick out of this. Here, I'll share this real quick. Yeah, he didn't approve. He wasn't a fan of your tone. He says, "I'm sorry, but Russell Dobler is being very disrespectful to Rachel Maddow. Thank God someone still knows how you're supposed to treat war pigs like Rachel Maddow." Yep.
Thank you. That is very high praise coming from the clown prince of the online left, Mr. Jimmy Dore.
And thank you for the retweet, my friend. That makes a difference. Helps get it out there a lot for sure. Yeah. Meteor Dreams, thanks for the $1.99. Is David Hyde Pierce a JOO? Who's David Hyde? I don't remember David Hyde Pierce.
Is he on Frasier?
Yeah, it's one of those 3 name guys. I always confuse him with another one of the 3 name guys. I forget who. Who's the other 3 name guy? The guy who was in the Neil Patrick Harris. That's who I confuse him with.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Doesn't sound like one.
I mean, certainly that name would not suggest Jewry.
Right.
It doesn't jump out at me as a Jewish name.
I mean, it's probably a stage name if he is one.
Oh, yeah.
Cool Blue, thanks for the $1.99. Columbo is one of the all-time great TV dramas. Yeah, my grandfather used to watch Columbo with me. And he used to explain. Now, he knows this guy did it. He's just got to figure out how to nail him for it. But he already knows he did it. Yeah. No, it was a great show. Thank you for the donation. Cyrus, thank you for another $20. Appreciate that. Thank you for your generosity tonight, everybody. Really means a great deal. A ceasefire is crucial, but without BDS, this cycle of pain will never end. Well, that's the other thing. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But the idea that they have literally, they have made BDS illegal in a lot of countries. What are you talking about? It's just unthinkable. The level of propaganda is just unthinkable. What do you mean it's illegal?
Well, what about these Western values that we're supposed to be defending? These values of freedom of expression, freedom of thought, right? I thought we're the good guys, right?
Yeah. Starbucks just apparently is suing their union because the union put out a pro-Palestine sentiment, and Starbucks is now talking about suing them because they're making it look like Starbucks is anti-Israel. And I thought to myself, well, why don't we boycott Starbucks? But of course, we've already gotten our little boutique boycott of Starbucks going. But I was just thinking, oh yeah, you know what? If you wanted to do that, that's not the same thing as BDS, but it's in the same family. It's they've even made that kind of organized resistance a third rail. So yes, good point, Cyrus. Thank you.
If they go through with that lawsuit, then yeah, let's definitely. We have already we already did a prolonged promotion of boycotting Starbucks with our contest, but we could try to get it trending.
Yeah. Yep. We'll see what we could do. Fletcho McTaggy. Did you guys ever discuss the disgraceful interview of Jesse Singal on Sam Cedar a couple months back? I miss Michael Brooks. Well, Jesse Singal, isn't he the guy who they call the transphobe, right? Isn't that the guy Emma was? I don't know. I didn't watch. I didn't know they interviewed him, but yeah, like Russell said.
That's the guy. He wrote a lot of great articles on that subject.
Yeah. Because people are talking about and I know there was something where they were gonna do a debate. I don't know if they ever did.
I am very surprised that did not get on our radar. I didn't even know they had him on.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was some chirping about it on Twitter. I don't really watch the show anymore.
He wrote some of the most
for obvious reasons.
Well, yeah. He wrote some of the best argued, sourced, most comprehensive articles about transgender medicine for juveniles.
Yeah, he's got like a Substack or something that he writes. That's what I've heard.
Right.
But I think he's like a liberal. He's like kind of in the same school of like the people you interviewed, like on the Don't Look Back or not Don't Look Back. No way back.
Most of the people with a serious critique of those ideas are liberals. Most of them are. There are very few people with real standing who are making these arguments who are not liberals, who are not people who are would have been considered standard left-wing people until 10 minutes ago.
Right. No, exactly. And that's who those filmmakers were. I called it Don't Look Back. That's the iconic Bob Dylan documentary.
Yes. Well, because Bob Dylan went through his trans phase with Blonde on Blonde, right?
Yes. Yeah, indeed. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep track. Okay, Judge Napolitano also deserves credit. He'd been fair on Palestine. Sorry, I should have put that up on the screen. And shout out to Hinkle again for exposing fake AI photos, infrared tankies forever. Yep, well, he's on Rumble now exclusively, I guess, right? Because I don't think they reinstated his channel yet. Hopefully they do, but hopefully he gets shop set up over there. I think he's already gotten a decent amount of followers over there, and he's got a big Twitter following, so hopefully he'll be able to keep the shop open for sure. Llama AO. Llama, please forgive me if I'm wrong, but are you in Palestine? Didn't you say you were in Palestine? I know we have a Palestinian patron who messaged us last time saying that they were from there. And if it's not you, I apologize. But if you are there, God bless, and I hope you are safe. And please do stay in touch with us if you can. Youssef's brilliance was that he took on the right, boring, and the lib Morgan at the same time. Right, exactly. Yes, that's a very good point. He showed how neutrality of latter easily leads to the license to genocide of the former. Yes, that's very well put. Absolutely. Jimmy making his point again. I'm sorry, but Russell was very, very disrespectful to Rachel Maddow. You should have worked security at the event. You should have interviewed her, actually. That would have been a good gig.
You could have gotten me in an arm lock there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that would have been fun. I'm seeing if Llama replied because I'm really curious because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's the wrong person. And if it is, I apologize because I'm working off memory. But I will look into that. All righty. Tusker, thanks for the $5. Love our dissident audience filled with human animals. Make sure you condemn Hamas or else they tunnel under your house, school, or hospital.
Hey, those motherfuckers got my ID, man. I'm more worried about getting garroted with piano wire by the Mossad.
Yeah,
freaking guys are gonna climb in my freaking way. I tell you, I locked the window in the extra
Jose
bedroom.
Didn't give him
over
his
there.
ID, right? Jose
He
said
did.
no,
He
not
did.
giving
They got mine, and afterwards, Jose was like, "Man, you didn't have to give me your ID." I was like, "Well, man, you know, you were my sensei, Jose. Why didn't you prepare me for that?"
Right. Didn't you guys meet before? What did you guys talk about? You just bullshitted?
We talked about what the basic game plan was and what he was going to say and what I was going to get into, like which areas we were each going to tackle.
Right.
Which, I mean, the plan more or less went off as we worked it out. Like I said, the bags being checked was a real wrinkle. Like, that was what kept me there. Otherwise, I could have just left as soon as they threw me out.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They definitely pack light for those things, for sure.
Lesson learned.
Lesson learned for next time. Indeed. But you're right. I condemn Hamas or, acknowledging the tragedy of civilian life. That's like the new safe and effective disclaimer. Like during COVID, you had to say, okay, they're safe and effective no matter what else you say. That's going to be the new thing. Because I'm telling you right now, the intelligence agencies are the new CDC as far as like social media. Like they are going to say the same way they said during the height of the pandemic, okay, you cannot contradict what the CDC says or else that's a strike. It's going to be the same thing. If the CIA says that Hamas did it and that it was an accidental rocket fire and you don't agree with that, then that's considered some disinformation or some guideline strike. That's the way it's going to work. I really feel that way. I think the writing is on the wall. Gotta stay on your toes here. In East Berlin. But luckily and thankfully for us, we had a wonderful audience on both YouTube and on Rumble this evening, 459 in Rumble, in the Rumble chat right now. That's amazing. Make sure you hit that follow button over there. Hugely important. And if you're over here, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Russ says 007 Angelo, the bookcase squashing you is the big worry. No, he took care of that. He fortified that. He was fortified that. Which, I was a little disappointed because I always thought it would make for an epic moment on the show if the bookshelf just collapsed while he was doing a live stream.
Yeah, he was kind of secretly hoping for it.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want you to get hurt or anything, but, you guys see on the show, you see 3 shelves. He's got high ceilings in there. I think, what does that go, 8 shelves up, 9 shelves up? It's tall.
Right, I haven't done this in a while.
Look at that. That's like the Beauty and the Beast book room there. With the guy with the ladder having to climb up.
I do. I have the ladder over there.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, so you have a ladder for the books.
Yeah.
Look at that. There you go. Alrighty, folks. I believe that is everything we got for tonight. Yeah, I knew this was going to be a long one, and it was, but that's for good reason. Thank you guys all very much for your support. Thank you all very much for coming in here. You can go to patreon.com/do dissidents and help support what we do here. If you can, that is the best way to keep the show afloat, to censor-proof the operation, and support what we do. Like I said, those Rachel Maddow tickets, $53 a piece, man. That's where that Patreon money goes. Invest it back into the product.
So, look, we're very much like, Disney is a complicated figure, especially when we're talking about Nazis. But, he said something I find very relatable. He said, you want to make money off the movie, not so that you have more money, but so that you can make more movies. For us, it's not that we, want to go, out snorting coke with hookers, although we do. But that's, we have our own money set aside for that. It's that, hey, I mean, the more we have financial independence, the more we can do, the more actions we can do, the more pranks we can pull, the more things we can do to, challenge power that way directly. You guys were great stepping up with the fundraiser. We're making plans on going out and doing the primary coverage. But if we're really doing this full time, that's a lot more articles. Video essays are hugely time consuming. I always start them and then I don't have time because I still work and it's time consuming doing the show. Like a video essay, man, that's to do it right.
Oh yeah, it's huge amount of work. Yeah,
that's hundreds of hours you're going to put into that if you're doing like a full video essay. So yeah, I mean that's where those things will go. We're
Indeed.
not the van guys. We're not going to not do what we say we'll do with the money.
Exactly. We do have one more Rumble rant. Thank you, Jake, for catching that because I almost missed it. T-Bone 316, thanks for the $3. Please think about inviting Miko Peled. Am I getting his name wrong? I've never heard of him. Gerald Salenti and Kurt Metzger. As far as guests on the show, yeah, that will be fun. Russell, I caught your reference to Dennis Leary, No Cure for Cancer, a ding dang do. You guys rock. I don't remember. I was a little young for that special when it came out. I remember liking it, but I don't remember it. I can't quote it.
I think I've only ever gotten to drop this once, but I'll since you're a fan.
Whining fucking maggots.
Well,
it's
that was
on the soundboard waiting to be used.
Was that the bit where he do the bit about smoking in that one? It makes sense. It would be No Cure for Cancer.
I mean that was his shtick.
He did a lot of things, but the one about the plane where you're not allowed to smoke anywhere on the plane. You happy now you own the fucking plane.
Wasn't
I can't
in that
smoke about the
special.
plane. It wasn't in that one.
No,
I like that. You happy now you own the fucking plane to the non-smokers. Yeah, that was good. He hasn't really done any stand-up in a while, right?
Because he quit smoking. He has no material now.
Yeah, no material. That's right. He's no material anymore.
That was his whole act.
That's true. It's true. That was hiding in plain sight.
I never told you about when I saw him before he got famous.
No.
I went with a friend to a comedy club. You know the way you do. Like, hey, you know what? Let's go to a comedy club. Like I wasn't a regular visitor of comedy clubs. And so, we saw a few comedians and the show was going to end. And this guy who was supposed to perform, his car had broken down on the expressway or whatever. He shows up and the audience is like played out. You know what I mean? Like they've already seen it. They were ready to leave, but they sit there to see like, all right, well, the guy's going to perform. And he fucking killed, man. Like that's talent. To get back an audience that's already seen 3-4 comedians that's ready to walk out the door and to get them back and the audience was eating out of the palm of his hand. He could have kept them there for 3 hours if he wanted to. And he did a lot of bits about smoking and red meat and all this shit.
Right. Red meat, that was the other one.
And so it's a few years later and my tech guy on a show I was directing is playing this comedy album while we're hanging lights. And, this guy's making all these jokes about smoking. I was like, hang on, I know this motherfucker. And I saw this guy at a comedy club like 3 years ago. That was Dennis Leary.
Wow. Yeah, my mom used to see Robin Williams a lot when he was like, because he was in San Francisco at the time that she was. She almost hit him with a car once, apparently. She said she almost ran him over. Yeah, because she wasn't, I guess he walked out in the middle of the street. She didn't tell me whose fault it would have been. But
Probably
obviously,
on speedballs.
Yeah, you never know. Pedestrians have the right of way, though, as they say.
No,
Lloyd,
that's it. That's in what was it? Bob Woodward did the book about John Belushi's last days. I forget what it was called. And one of the scenes that he describes was Jack Nicholson, John Belushi, and Robin Williams doing speedballs together. Now that I would like to have been a fly on the wall for.
Yeah, indeed. Lloyd J. Hart, thanks for the buck. So all your drugs have to be donated.
Don't you fucking worry about how we get our drugs.
Don't worry.
What are you, a narc?
A need-to-know basis, right, exactly.
Yeah, you don't need to know.
Don't say nothing. All right, everybody. I believe that is everything. Thank you guys very, very much for being here. We had a great time with you all. We hope you guys had a great time with us. We will see you again bright and early Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, the Morning Dew edition. In the meantime, please do dissidents.substack.com. Sign up for free. Even if you can't become a paid member, that gets you access to the newsletter where we tell you when and where we're going to be going live. So if we have to do any like Rumble exclusive streams or whatever, you will know about that from the Substack that drops. And of course, hit our Rumble channel up as well. Obviously, patreon.com/do dissidents, the best way to support the project. But thank you guys very much for being here this evening. We will see you all once again Friday morning, October 20th, bright and early, 9 a.m. Thanks again. Until we see you next time, be safe and be well.
Courage.
Please clap.